And so when I look out that door, especially the first jump, I'm looking out and I'm going, what the fuck? People ask me, like, how does that not scare you? I'm like, are you shitting me? Of course it scares me. That's why I do it.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 61 of the Andrew Deitch podcast. Whew. We're in the 60s. This is madness. Lots of milestones this week. I hit 5,000 followers on Instagram. So now I'm officially cool or something. I uploaded episode 60 of the podcast. We're finally past the 6-month mark. Listeners are pretty solid. Numbers of listeners is pretty solid. Last week was kind of down, but then I uploaded episode 59 with Jack Morrow, and that one performed really well. One of the best in a long time, but enough about me. Let's get into this thing. First things first, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, hello, what's up? Hi. I love that you're trying out new things because that's a really common theme here on the podcast. I personally love trying new things, but basically this podcast is all about talking to people who do things off the beaten path, people who are doers, people who get out of their comfort zone and make shit happen, you know, people who try new things. I believe that these types of conversations are extremely important and they need to be shared. So I created this platform to basically talk to anyone that I find fascinating and share their stories. And today, my guest is my friend Connor Peterson. And Connor is no stranger to the show. He was already featured on episode 13. But if you missed that one, I'll try to get you up to speed. Basically, he's a ninja warrior, skydiver, rock climber, OCR, elite athlete, adventurer, skateboarder, and snowboarder. And on top of that, he is a really thoughtful dude who's obsessed with becoming the best version of himself. And the main reason why I look up to Connor so much is that he's a guy that's not really afraid to push the limits, you know, not just physically, but he likes to explore subjects mentally and talk about his opinions and feelings. And I really appreciate that. And like I said, he was already featured on episode 13, but since then he's gotten way more into skydiving and it's completely changed his life. He even got me to go along with him. So we talked about that. We talked about cryptocurrencies, meditation, religion, politics, all kinds of fun stuff. This is definitely a standalone podcast. Like, you don't need to listen to the other one in order to enjoy this one. But I think that if you really want to get to know Connor and hear about his story and how he became such a beast, then you should also check out episode 13 as well. But yeah, at this point, I think I'm just rambling. So let's just jump into this thing. Please welcome my friend, Connor Peterson. Boom. We're live. If you hear a water sound in the background, that is not someone peeing. It's
my fish tank.
It's a fish tank.
I could turn that off.
It doesn't really, I mean...
It's soothing. Well, sure.
It would probably be better if we turned it off, but
Deal.
If we don't have to...
I can easily. I mean, honestly, I'm surprised they're not dead.
I was just thinking, I didn't even think about it that much, but as I just started it and I was listening and I'm like, I can definitely hear that in the background.
How is it still?
If it's still draining, then don't worry about it.
Nope. Oh, shit.
Did you break it?
No, that's hooked up to this computer.
Wait, the fish tank is hooked up to the computer?
Okay, no, here it is. No, that extension cord for it was. And we use that computer for work. We log into it remotely.
Nice.
It's just kind of stationed here.
Nice. There we go.
All right, damn.
All right,
you're doing the whole Joe Rogan thing with wearing the headphones. Wow.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to wear them the whole time because I learned my lesson recently where I started the podcast and I had it on the wrong settings, and luckily I was able to catch it after the first couple minutes, but it was hilarious because in the beginning there was the heavens in the beginning But for the record, I made Connor drink while he had his drink in his mouth, so that was perfect.
Just about to spit up some gin. So
that was great. But anyways, in the beginning, he was like, do you need to plug your headphones in and check the levels? I'm like, nah, dude, this is episode 50 something. I haven't had a problem yet. And then like literally that's when I had the problem. I'm like, fuck me.
Yep.
Like, but
there was a reason he was the one that said that at that particular moment.
There was indeed. and so anyways, it was good because I was able to check it. But I looked like a cocky douchebag. But what's up, Connor? This is gonna be a good one, I feel like.
Episode 2, man.
Episode 2.
Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith Jedi.
Whatever you want to call it.
Revenge of the Jedi boys.
Yeah, the first one was good. That was, I mean, still my first and only podcast I've done, or really that kind of interview style kind of thing. And it was awesome.
I feel like it was more formal. I feel like this one can be very more relaxed.
Yeah, down.
Which is good.
Yeah, we got gin in hand, and
yes, I've got some gin in my hand. It's been a good day. How's your day been?
It's been pretty awesome. I mean, most days are good. It's just, you have certain things pop up. I had the rib head slip out of place this morning. So
what does that exactly mean?
So you have the ribs that attach into your spine. It's the rib heads. It's kind of a ball and, if you want to think of it, kind of like a ball and joint kind of thing. And so you have tendons pulling on them. And my right side of my back is like, it pulls way tighter than my left side.
Huh.
And so oftentimes if I like lift something heavy or in a weird way or something weird happens, it'll pull the little rib head out of place. And oftentimes it goes right back in, but it hurts for a little bit because the tendons have been stretched, the muscles kind of freak out. So
interesting.
So yeah, that happened, which, bummer, but a couple of days and I'm sure I'll be feeling okay again.
That's good.
But
so it just kind of pops back into place?
Sometimes it's like a quick like in out. And sometimes it's out and I have to work on getting it popped back in. I used to have to go to the chiropractor every time. And today I went, but they said it was already back in. It just really hurt. But I've found ways to pop it back in myself sometimes.
If it didn't pop in, would it just kind of like float in place? Or like how does it?
I'm not positive.
Because it's connected in the front.
What it feels like is that, yeah, you're connected. You have the connection in the front as well, but also like mine's always in the back. I think you can slip rib heads in the front. I'm not.
I think
quite
there's.
sure.
I'm probably wrong, but I think that there's like in the front it's connected to cartilage or something. Like there's a little bit of cartilage that separates your sternum from the ribs. I could be wrong.
I'm not sure.
Because I remember seeing like in diagrams, like in school, like or even like skeletal designs, like there was like this weird kind of like almost see-through, translucent stuff that they would put near the sternum. I don't know. Like I said, probably wrong, but there's probably like scientists out there yelling at me, but you know what? I'm here and you're there, so suck it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, besides that, good day. Just got a lot of stuff done around here, got a lot of work done. And like, I kind of, since I'm so active and I do a lot of things like frequently, it's not like getting injured is sometimes kind of a good thing. I get to take a break for a little bit and do a little extra reading or playing the piano and kind of relaxing, which I'm not very good at, as you know.
But that's good, man. You're trying to get better at more things. I feel like that's something you're really good at.
Yeah, at least
not piano. You're really good at getting better at things. I'm not, like trying new things, trying new experiences.
Yeah, that's where there's pros and cons to doing that, because obviously I don't get great at any of them because I try so many different things. Obviously, if I put all of my attention to one of my passions, then I'd probably get pretty good at it. But I'm a Renaissance man of a sense that I do a lot of things, but I'm mediocre at best at all of them. But that's just because, and I'm okay with that. I'm not striving to be like the best of the best piano player, or the best of the best skateboarder, or, all that other stuff, because I just like doing it all.
Yeah. And would you say that obstacle course racing is like the thing that you've been most striving to be like the best at?
When it comes to a competitive format, yeah. Because a lot of the other things I do, I've taken the competition aspect out of it. OCR is really the only sport I do now. I guess Ninja, you could say, is competitive, but that's kind of different because it's like trial runs.
You're kind of competing against yourself.
Right. You're never running with a bunch of other people with that extra
It's not
push.
It's not like a zero-sum game where like there's a winner and a loser. It's kind of like you compete or you don't.
Right.
And I mean, at the very end, yes, there's winners and losers because you got to beat the times of other people, but
it's a different
generally
dynamic.
Speaking, you're kind of competing against your own abilities.
Exactly. It's so yeah, OCR racing, but do I put enough work into it to be the best of the best? Probably not.
Yeah.
Now, one day, maybe, I do work hard at it, but I'm not, that's something that I've recently come across, is accepting the fact that I'm not going to be the best of the best at any of this stuff because I'm doing all of the stuff.
Yeah.
So, and I'm happy with that now. There's been a few races I go to and I don't place very well and I beat myself up about it. And I'm like, but I'm doing all this other stuff and am I willing to give that up to go up a few extra notches at each race? No.
Yeah.
Not.
And I mean, I would think, just based on knowing you, I feel like you are very mentally like in a good place. Like not necessarily like, oh, Connor's got it all together, but you're doing a lot of things that are promoting like health and wellness for your own self. Like, I mean, just walking into your apartment, you've got a freaking like bouldering wall attached to your wall so you can climb stuff. You've got a freaking like 2 pull-up bars, a pegboard. You've got some essential oil diffusers going, so you got some good vibes in here. You got a yoga mat laid out. You've got a foam roller out there. So it's and like you've got this kind of like Zen vibe going on in here. So like I feel like you're in a good headspace to I don't know, like you're trying to be more mindful of your happiness, I guess, because that's one thing that can get away from people.
Yeah, it's definitely, and just like with the sports we talked about, I try lots of different things. Same with, my mental aspect of trying to progress. And like you said, I'm not like, I don't claim to have it all together at all. But what I do claim is that I realize that I don't have it all together. And once you do that, you can start to do things to try to, but if you think you have it all together, you're just like, okay, well, there's no fucking point. So when it comes to that's my little meditation spot, and that's something I tried. Turns out I really like it, so kept doing that. The essential oils thing, I don't know, man.
Smells good.
Smells good, looks cool. Like, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Once you take away the judgment of like, oh, that's ridiculous, or that's,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I try to...
That's for chicks, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you, gay?
Essential oils, man, what?
Why are you breathing in good smells? I want my apartment to smell like sweaty socks and dick.
Whiskey fell on the floor, it's an air freshener.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I constantly working at bettering is fun. It's enjoyable. And so...
That's awesome,
but birds of a feather flock together. You're doing this podcast stuff. I'm watching your story all the time and your Snapchats, and and this is since I've known you. Like you've probably seen because you met me a few years ago, and I'd like to think that was a lot different back then when we first met.
I think so.
But you've always been super driven. And
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, I
appreciate that. And sometimes it's hard to zoom out and see that about yourself, because I look at myself and I'm like, I always want to compare myself to other people. Like, for example, I just did a podcast with my friend Jack, and he was talking about on his podcast, or on the podcast that we did together, where people don't like to see other people change because it forces you to look at yourself.
Yeah.
And ask yourself, have you made similar strides? If I see, for example, Jack, he was this really scrawny dude when I knew him back in middle school. And now he's 200 pounds. He's 5'8". He's our height, and he's 200 pounds, freaking jacked.
Yeah.
He deadlifts 600 pounds or something crazy. And he's a power lifter. So that's what he does. But,
right.
He made this crazy physical transformation. And so looking at someone like him, I'm like, fuck, dude. I've made an amazing physical transformation from where I was, but compared to him, I'm like, geez, man. I haven't put on that kind of weight. I'm like, did I work hard enough? You start questioning your work ethic and motives and all that. But it's cool to be recognized for your efforts, because I do have to tend to look back at myself and be like, well, Andrew, you are very consistent. You stay very active. You're going to the gym. You're trying to be as conscious as you can. You're trying to eat better. You're trying to do things that are going to promote health in your life.
And that's just one aspect that you're comparing to. You're comparing his aesthetics to your aesthetics. And there's way more to life than aesthetics.
It's very true.
Work ethic, which obviously he has, and obviously you have. Now, he might put a little bit more of his work ethic towards health, where you might put a little bit more of that work ethic into doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
But
so,
also I have to question, like, am I being too much of a pussy in the gym? Because, like, I know for a fact that, like, he might be putting in, like, more time than me, but is my effort, you're putting in hard effort in the gym, you're popping freaking rib heads out and stuff.
that's not hard effort. That shit just kind of happens to me sometimes like that.
But, like, for example, I know
Yeah.
I watch his videos on Instagram, and he's freaking, like, slapping himself to get psyched up for his lift and, like, let's go, you know, like,
Yeah,
and
the
psyching
aggro.
himself up. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. Am I not doing enough? Like, you know, and so you have to start, like, you start questioning yourself. But you're totally right. You know, I am staying consistent, and you know, he's chosen to go down this aggressive path of this, and that's not necessarily one of my goals to be 200 pounds. Like, you know, and he even talked about this on his episode. I think you'd enjoy it a lot. Is he talked about there's like this fork that he kind of had to choose between, like, health and performance, because at this point, like, his body should not weigh that much at that height. Like, he should not, you know, his back is freaking rounded from doing deadlifts. He's, you know, there's certain health aspects that he's had to sacrifice to perform at that level, which, you know, that's his choice. That's his prerogative. Like, more power to him. But that's, like, not something I'm necessarily, like, interested in doing. So I'm going towards, like, other avenues. And one thing in particular that I've been getting super into is yoga.
I've noticed that on your Facebook
Yeah.
page. Yoga's awesome, but yoga fucking sucks. Dude. God, it's so hard.
Dude, it's hard.
so difficult, and like I'll play. I was ignorant to the fact that it's fucking hard, you know. And when I was younger, and yoga was, because it's way more of a craze now, and I can only see it going up because hard to say anything bad about it.
Well, here's the thing: is, like, you think it's like this girly, like, stay-at-home mom thing.
Relax, sit cross-legged, and sometimes, you know, those positions are hard.
But yeah, but the thing is, as well, is you can half-ass it. Like, you can definitely kind of, like, half-ass your way through a class. Like, you know, they'll say, like, okay, get into this pose. If you want to take it farther, let's go here. If you want to take it even farther, let's go here. If you want to take it even farther. And so there's, like, you know, you'll look around, and there's some people that aren't even doing, like, the initial pose. They're like, you know.
That's me, because sometimes you're like, this is the first most beginner one, and then they have 4 afters, and I'm still trying to get into the first bit.
But that's commendable, because I know that you would be the person that would be actually trying to get into the first bit. There's other people that I see in there that are, like, not even really straining. Like, for me, like, you can see to my face, like, I'm really trying to get it done. Like,
What's the cool thing about that is that if you want to go in there and make it a relaxing thing, you can. Or if you want to go in there and make it strenuous on the body, you can. And that's the beauty, I think, of yoga. I need to start doing it more, man.
It's been really fun, man. I think I've gone the past 3 days I've done hot yoga.
Nice.
Yeah. I've been feeling great. Like, it feels really, really good.
Yeah.
And, like, for example, I had my friend Abby on the podcast. She'd probably think that the yoga classes I'm going to are very westernized, very, like, Starbucks versions of yoga. Yeah. But it's mainly just because that's what Lifetime offers, and I've been going to a lot of them. But the one that I went to today, and the one I went to today, and the one I went to the day before that was Ashtanga Vinyasa, which is, like, pretty intense. And it's like, basically you're doing all the primary series of Ashtanga, but you're incorporating, like, the faster flowing vinyasa stuff. I don't know. Yeah. But anyways, it's been killer, man. And I've seen myself, like, get way more flexible, because that's one thing that I know you're trying to do, incorporating your morning routines, is like getting more flexible. Yep. And I've already noticed in the past couple months of me trying to do yoga more, like, consistently, I've definitely noticed that I've gotten more flexible, which has been, like, really encouraging.
Very nice. Yeah, it's just like with any version of health, it's a slower road, and that's where my impatience has been quite a pain in the ass due to, you know, I start yoga, I did it for about a month, and I saw some results, but it wasn't fast enough. When I very first started lifting, when my goal was to gain weight, didn't gain weight fast enough. So I kind of stopped doing that, and that's, you know, my mind kind of starts to wander. I get bored with things. I start something new. I think I'm finally getting to the point to where I've come to realize if I want to get especially healthy when it comes to flexibility and doing yoga and what my fitness goal is now, So it's going to take time. You can keep trying different diets or workout plans or something like that, but in reality, you're not going to find one that makes it that much faster.
Yeah.
So
and
stretch
especially
every day.
with strength. Strength is the slowest to earn.
Yeah.
Like you can earn a lot of other skills like quicker, but strength is a hard one.
Yeah. Which I was going to loop that back to the guy you were talking about, the Jake, was it?
Jack.
You said how you were comparing yourself. You're like, oh man, I'm not doing that. I'm not. I think it's way more. It's beneficial to ask yourself or to question yourself only if you're comparing yourself to a previous version of you. I think comparing yourself to somebody else in any way, shape, or form, because if you're going to compare yourself to someone, you're not going to compare yourself to them in the grand scheme of who they are. You're probably going to compare yourself to what they own or how they speak or how they look. So that's,
or what they put on Instagram.
The highlight reel that we talked about in the previous podcast. Yeah, you see the highlight reel stuff. So it's easy to go, why am I not like that? But for all you know, he's like, why can't I be as driven as, there are days where I don't do my shit and I'm like, damn, dude. Like, and I see you posting a bunch of awesome stuff. Got to hot yoga today. Got 3 podcast episodes in. Wow. And just doing read 7 books.
I wish.
And it was one of those days where I was lazy and I was just like, damn, why can't I just be as driven as Andrew? So.
Well, I appreciate that, man. It is crazy to think that there's people out there that think that about you, because
it's easy to focus on the negatives and how you compare yourself to others. And whenever you do that, you're typically, we're a very pessimistic mindset. I just think, naturally. So we compare in a way of saying, how can we be better? You see something that you strive for and you're always wanting to get there. But if you reach that next step, all you're going to do is look at the step above and say, oh, why? I'm going to compare myself to that now.
Why don't I have 7 Lambos? I only have 5.
That I'm sure that Jack dude's comparing himself to other big time followers.
Of course.
And that's going to work its way up to Mr. Olympia. And if you get there, then yeah, okay, you win.
Yeah. That is a crazy thing though, is when you get to the pinnacle, where do you go? That's why you see a lot of spiral downwards, because you lose that sense of what's next.
Yeah, that, or you get to that pinnacle and you go, okay, I'm here. It's not as good as I thought. Well, I don't know. I've never reached the pinnacle of anything. I'm only assuming that you're there's so many, at that point, instead of working towards what you've worked for your whole entire life, you either have to maintain that and work towards something else new, or just remain stagnant, which drives people crazy. I think that's what leads to the downward spiral is that, look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. He hit the pinnacle of something, but that didn't stop him from taking on new avenues of becoming a better person, where some people hit that peak and they go, well, shit.
Yeah, and they keep living in that peak even though they've passed it.
Right.
There's...
That's got to be such a boring life.
Yeah.
Just maintaining.
It's so crazy too, because for example, someone like Jessica Alba, she was at the pinnacle of her acting career, and then she took it another level and created this company that's worth $1 billion or something crazy. I don't even know anything about it, because it's beauty products and stuff, which I don't pay attention to that space just because. Yeah. Because I'm a freaking man, bro. I'm not paying attention to that girl shit, bro. But it's so funny how quickly I got
saved on your favorites.
It's so funny how quickly I got defensive about that too. I'm I don't pay attention to that space. I'm not a fucking girl. But it's funny how dudes will get like that.
Oh, of course.
Guys will, as soon as something girly's brought up, it's even talking about yoga is kind of, a lot of guys would be
better. It's definitely getting better in our generation.
It's definitely getting better. But anyways, to go back to that, Jessica Alba, it doesn't seem is living in the prime of oh yeah, I was a Fantastic Four. She's not living back in that. She's creating new things and doing more things. And that's really exciting to see. Whereas somebody in Napoleon Dynamite, Uncle Rico, where he's talking about how he used to be able to throw a football over the mountains or whatever.
Over them damn mountains.
And we all know someone like that, where they're living in that past achievement. They did achieve something then, and there's nothing worse than being somewhere and then falling from that. That's the worst thing ever.
Yeah, I think that, it's no question to anyone that accomplishing a goal makes you happy. But that's going to be temporary, because you can only once you accomplish a goal, then mission accomplished. You either need to raise your goal or you remain stuck there, which the happiness is temporary. So the happiness will go away, and yeah, you can remain in that mindset of this is what made me happy, was living in the fact that I could throw a football over mountains. But
arguably, allegedly.
Yeah. But yeah, you have to like keep going on. Like with these OCR races or something, if I got first in age group and that was a goal of mine, but I didn't say, okay, well, I'm done. It's like now, I train a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And try to get a little bit higher up.
Yeah.
Of course, not enough.
Yeah.
Because I'm not taken away from the rock climbing and skydiving and all that stuff.
Of course. You listen to Jordan Peterson, right?
Oh my God, dude,
He's
that
the
man. I almost
Are you related to him?
No, I wish, man. That would be great, but then
He's
again,
the man.
I don't agree with every single thing, but like 90%, and just even the things that I don't agree with, and I think this is really important for anyone to have this mindset when listening to someone that they don't agree with, is that he makes valid points. There's multiple podcasts that I listen to with somebody who I don't agree with, and I don't let it anger me and turn it off. Once you get rid of the emotional aspect of like, I don't agree with this, and you just decide to go like, let me try to like understand their logic. Like it's kind of fun to listen to someone break something down in a way that your brain isn't going to do that. And if you're so caught up in your own head of disagreeing with them, you're probably not listening to the, logical explanation they have for that mindset.
Exactly, man. Like, that's the thing that I personally, like, as soon as you start to personally believe that there's not one right answer for everything, and that everyone is just living their own life through their own lens, like, that's when you can start to be more open-minded about like, okay, why is this guy thinking this way? Oh, he's thinking really liberal because of blah, blah, blah. Or like, he's a conservative thinker because blah, 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 or whatever. And like Jordan Peterson, for me, is like somebody who he tries to dissect his own ideas and like shut them down in a way where he wants to create an argument that's so sound that he can't think of a counter argument or whatever. He talks about that a lot, where he's like, I've been thinking about this idea a lot, and I don't know if I'm comfortable even like speaking about it yet, because I've been trying to find the flaws in it even more. And like, I'm like, oh wow, I admire that so much, because I tend to just have an idea and just kind of spew it out or whatever. And he's one of those guys where he really tries to dissect what he's thinking. And I think it's really important to not be like married to your ideas, because as soon as you become married to your ideas, like your ideas are just things that you've kind of created in your brain, but they don't define you. Like,
you have to have affairs on your ideas.
Exactly.
You have to cheat on your ideas.
Exactly.
Because once you become too loyal to your ideas, you can't.
And ideas are
all
actions.
Information that comes in that contradicts it, you don't even get to process it. It just hits a wall and gets blocked out because it's against your ideas.
Yeah, and like that's an interesting thing you brought up, because ideas are not actions. Like, just because it comes through your brain, like we don't even really know where thoughts come from. Yeah. Like in yoga or meditation, like when when you're trying to still your mind and you're just trying to think of nothing, thoughts will just freaking come at you. Like you don't even know where they're coming from. That's the point of meditation. Yeah. And the crazy thing is like, I liked how you brought up the cheating on thing, because it's like, I'm sure a lot of married guys out there have thought about cheating on their wife with their coworker or whatever, but they don't act on that.
Yeah.
The thought came in, it's like, damn, she's hot. Oh, damn, or whatever, like the thought, but like the action never came. And so there's no harm in like having those ideas and like playing them out in your brain. But as long as you stay true to like what you actually believe, there's no harm in like, obviously it's a slippery slope when we're talking about cheating on your wife or something. I don't want to seem like I'm advocating that.
Right. But that was just a metaphor.
That was just a metaphor. But like, cheating on, your ideas, like try to go down the rabbit hole of like, okay, if you're this hardcore conservative, try to defend your beliefs. Like, go down this rabbit hole of like, what would it be like if I was a liberal? What it would be like if I was a transgendered person who doesn't feel at home in my own body? Like, what does that even feel like? I don't know. But if you can try to imagine it, then maybe you can try to believe why they're thinking these thoughts or whatever.
Yeah, very, very much so. And it's, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and questioning your own beliefs is pretty important with any, like I said, you just put up a wall. And if you put up a wall, then you're not going to get anywhere. and you're just going to be stuck in your beliefs, like those people, like, you know, those, like the people he sees showing up to the Charlottesville riots and that kind of stuff. It's like they don't even give it the time of day. So if you put yourself into another person's shoes and try to understand it and then question it, but that's where Jordan Peterson, where people will argue that he does not do that, because if you take bites of what he says, you can make him seem like the worst fucking person on this planet.
Of course.
Talking about how interesting he talks about Hitler quite a good bit, because he's a fascinating character to study. Because, you know, I say look what he accomplished, not as in the fact that he accomplished good goals, but he accomplished his goals, which were fucked up and monstrous and destructive. But he got it done, which is, you know, worth researching. So yeah, he's definitely a role model of mine when it comes to that whole questioning your own belief system.
Yeah.
And
sorry.
Anyone who's listening to this, check out the Jordan Peterson podcast. There's 3 of them on the Joe Rogan Experience. Listen to them in order. The third one's with Brett Weinstein, and they are mind-blowing. He's the smartest man I've ever heard speak.
Yeah, and he has his own podcast, which is really fascinating. And he's been on the Sam Harris podcast a few times.
Has he?
Yeah.
Nice.
Or a couple times. I don't remember. I actually haven't listened to those episodes, but I've heard they're really good. But I wanted to the reason why I brought him up in the first place was because we were talking about like happiness and like what actually creates that. He thinks about that kind of stuff a lot, and like why is the suicide rate in men so high compared to women and stuff like that, like stuff that people aren't talking about now a lot. And you know, I watched a YouTube video from him a couple days ago, and he was reading an excerpt from his new book. I forget what it's called. It's 12 Steps to Life, or like 12 Tips.
Secrets to Life by Jordan
like
Peterson.
That.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he was talking about is like, you shouldn't strive for happiness. You should strive for responsibility and like helping others or something like that. Like responsibility and meaning or something like that. And I was like, wow, that makes sense, because so many people are just striving for happiness. Like, yeah, riding a jet ski makes me very happy. But if I was riding a jet ski for 24 hours a day, I would not be happy. My ass would be sore. I'd be frowning.
I like that.
And, you know, like my thighs would be like chapped and all that. Like it would suck.
Well, there's 2 points that I have to kind of agree with that. And that's, I'm not sure if it was Jordan that spoke about this. It's called hedonic adaptation. And that's whenever you achieve that thing that you said is going to make you happy, it's going to, first off, bring you problems. And anything that brings you happiness also has a set of problems that
What's this called? Hedonic what?
Hedonic adaptation. So it's adapting to what creates your happiness. Like I have this, like I love my apartment and all my stuff, but I can still have a bad day. But when I was living back in my parents' house, I was like, oh, if only, you know, I remember looking at, I think we might have talked about this in the last podcast. I was looking at this apartment. I was like, I'd be so happy if I had that right now. But then I moved in and I never thought, you know, I'm so like, I should be happy every single day that I have this place, but I've gotten used to it. So I'm not happy about it. You know, it's just part of my life, where instead you should be, you know, spend a little bit more time in that happiness. And that's why I was saying happiness is temporary, is because it becomes, you know, you get that hedonic adaptation. You buy a jet ski. If I have a jet ski, I'll be happy, you know.
Dan Bilzerian.
Yeah. I'm sure he has bad days too. You buy a yacht, you got a lot of problems and a lot of new stuff.
Did you ever listen to his podcast with Joe Rogan?
No, I haven't yet, and I know I should. I've been told a million times I should.
It's one of my favorite ones, and I always forget that it's one of my favorite ones, because he's actually a lot more thoughtful than you'd think he'd be.
I know, that's what I've heard.
You think he'd just be like, duh, tits. Like you'd think that he's just dumb and like is just into like having sex and looking at girls' butts, but he's actually very, very smart. Like the one thing that he talked about that stood out to me the most was he was talking about like, I've basically experienced the coolest things I can think of experiencing.
Yeah.
For example, he lives in Las Vegas, or he lives in like the hills of LA, so he goes to Las Vegas all the time. And he's like, if I was given a complimentary stay at the Bellagio in their normal room, the average person out there would be stoked. all expenses paid. I've got this sweet room, all this stuff. Dan would be pissed because he's used to staying in the presidential of presidential suites, decked out with a butler and
He thinks
giant
he's on
room.
a different level than most humans. He finds himself at a higher end of that pyramid.
And it's not even necessarily that. It's that he's already experienced that at such a normal level. He's already done the highest of highest things at such a high level. He's like downgrading to what everyone else's upgrade is.
Right.
Which I was like, geez, that's so crazy. It's like the idea of like if your first car was a Ferrari and then your second
You're
car
gonna
was up to you
compare.
to buy.
You're always going to compare whatever situation you're into.
It's like a downgrade.
Especially if you've been in, whether it's a hotel room, a car, a house, a relationship, you're always going to compare it to what was the best one previously or in your lifetime. You know, I'm always going to remember the best hotel room I stayed at, and the next hotel room I go to, I'm going to compare it to that.
Yeah.
And have this idea of it. So same goes with that, so it makes sense. And that's, I guess you could say, a type of hedonic adaptation, because
It's kind of like hedonic adaptation because it's like he's adapted to this like crazy lifestyle that anything less than that is just like, what?
yeah.
Like, I only have one bed in here? What? You know, or whatever
That's not
it
going to
is.
fit his 18 girls he brought along.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just kind of crazy that once you reach that like level of success, it's like, what is there next? And that's where that like responsibility and helping other people like really comes into play with happiness. Because it's like, if you don't have any sense of responsibility and you're just like willy-nilly just going and doing only selfish things for yourself, you're not helping anyone else, like you're going to feel pretty empty after a while.
Yeah.
And that's kind of scary.
I think the happiness that you receive from doing good to others is still temporary. You can't donate money and live on that happiness for the rest of your life, but it lasts longer, I think, than buying yourself, that fancy purse or that nice watch. Which, I mean, it's okay. I'm not saying you shouldn't do materialistic things, but the happiness that you get from donating to a charity or doing whatever you think is a better cause of helping others, whether it's money or whether it's taking time out of your day to help someone move a couch.
Yeah.
And, like, that's not what you wanted to do, but you need to help your friend out, and that'll be, good for you to do. That's that happiness, if you actually live in it, instead of being resentful for, I have to fucking go help him move this couch. Like, no, be like, you're helping someone. You should be happy about that.
Exactly.
And that happiness is probably going to last longer than if you decide to stay at home and watch Rick and Morty, which I would maybe do.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Dude, did you hear about this meme recently it got nicknamed the bike cuck meme? Did you hear about this?
No.
Okay, so do you know what a cuck is? Like, so I'm gonna get graphic here. So for people that don't know, apparently what a cuck is someone that like enjoys seeing their significant other having sex with someone else.
My old roommate. Okay, continue. I have a story. Got a
You just
story
wrapped
there.
it up. That was amazing. So, anyways, apparently, so there's been this thing where like people have been starting calling other people cucks on the internet. So that's what it really means. Like a lot of people will call, especially in the Make America Great Again circles, they will call, for example, a like very liberal feminist man a cuck, because they're like, this little bitch boy is a cuck. He wants to see his wife get fucked by a giant black
By a
dude or
real
something.
man or
yeah,
something.
yeah, exactly. They seek enjoyment from like seeing their So anyways, sorry to get graphic, people, but anyways, so
not sorry.
there was this not sorry at all. There was this web comic, like a 4-panel web comic that came out, where the first panel is this guy. He walks up to his bike and he said, where'd my bike go? And the next panel is him, and it's like, someone stole my bike. And then the next panel shows the guy looking up at this little like bar graph, and one graph is like high and it has like a smiley face, and the other graph is like a low and has a frowny face. Said, well, to be honest, the level of happiness that someone has of having that new bike is probably higher than the level of sadness I have in not having my bike anymore.
Yep.
Therefore, the level of happiness in the world increased. And then it says, whatever. And so, anyways.
I like that.
I like it too. I like it in theory.
In theory.
In theory.
There's holes.
There's holes.
When you think about it in the most simplistic form, like a comic.
Exactly. Because you're like, oh, the level of happiness in the world increased. How sweet. But, so, So, of course, the internet went nuts on this guy. And I'm totally stealing. I learned about this from a PewDiePie video. So if you've seen this PewDiePie video, then excuse me, because I'm basically just copying what PewDiePie talked about. I'm not original in saying this. I'm telling this story from this perspective because it's really funny. So anyways, the internet goes crazy. And everyone is remixing this comic. Like, where's my wife? And it's like,
yeah,
I think, or no, he walks in on his wife getting screwed by another guy or whatever. And it says, it's like, well, this guy maybe is receiving more happiness getting it on with my wife than the sadness I experience by having him and then having not whatever. So the level of happiness in the world increase, whatever.
Yeah, that's so, or the wife is more happy fucking him than the husband.
Exactly. So anyways, it escalates even higher, and it goes. The guy who made the comic tweets, please stop calling me bike cuck, because everyone starts calling him bike cuck. And someone tweets back at him and says, I'm going to try to say something. Tweeting back to him and saying, maybe the level of happiness that someone experiences in perpetuating the bike cuck meme is greater than the sadness that you experience in being called bike cuck. So the level of happiness in the world increase.
When your own argument defends itself against you. Oh, that's funny.
I was literally dying when I saw that. It was the funniest.
You said that was a Twitter? That sounds more like a Reddit thing.
I'm sure it got reposted on Reddit and all that. Like, I'm sure a lot of that went down on Reddit, but that original response was a tweet back to him because he tweeted, stop calling me bike cuck. Yeah, and that guy tweeted at him. But it was just, oh my gosh, just total amazingness. Because you're right. Like, in theory, I like that comic too. I'm like, oh, you know what? That's nice. But it's like, I can relate it to,
simple first world
things.
You can
like,
relate to a lot of first world problems.
For example, your friend gave you that MacBook.
Yeah.
And it's like the happiness that you experience in getting that MacBook is greater than the sadness he experiences in giving it to you.
And his happiness went up because he was like, I never used this thing. So I'm sure he was just like, wow, someone gets some use out of this thing.
Exactly. That's how I felt the other day. So my friend gave me this digital audio interface thing that's like for higher end, like mixing and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, maybe when your podcast gets to that level, you'll use it. And I'm like, okay, cool. But it's probably not going to get that level for a while. And my friend posted that his digital audio interface was giving him trouble. And I looked online and I was like, oh, how much is this worth? And it was worth like, a couple $100 or whatever. And I commented back to him. I'm like, yo, I have this little thing. And he was like, oh, cool. How much do you want for it? And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give it to this guy. Like, I know he'll use it way more than I'm ever going to use it anyways. Right. So I just straight up gave it to him and he was like, dude, no, I got to give you something. I'm like, dude, no, like, I'll be down in Atlanta later. I'll drop it by your house. Like, it's not a big deal. He's like, dude, that means so much. There are good people out there. I'm like, yeah, man, like, I'm not going to use, like, yes, I could sell it to you, but I got it for free anyways. Right. Like, my friend gave it to me. I'm just paying it forward, man. Like, I believe that, like, what goes around comes around 100%.
Yeah. But as long as you don't expect it to.
Exactly. Like, I'm not expecting, see, the way
if you held him in debt in your mind, then that would be in it, which a lot of people do.
Exactly. And that example only came to my mind because we were thinking about the MacBook exchange kind of thing, like trading technology kind of stuff. Like, I'm not holding that against him in my brain. Like, when's he going to pay me back with something cool? Right. Like, and that's the one thing that people have I guess, like, and I'm not the biggest believer in, like, whatever, karma, like all that stuff. Like, I believe in it in theory, but I don't necessarily believe in it religiously as far as, like,
sometimes shit happens for no reason. Yeah. There's always a reason. No, there's not. Things Things
Sometimes
happen for
things
no reason
suck.
sometimes. And sometimes they're just shitty.
But not to say there's never a learning experience in some of those things, but like sometimes it's just like, yeah, it's just a shitty thing that happened.
Yeah, I think it was Sam Harris who talked about how it was Sean Carroll. It's metaphorical truths. There are truths that you can have that will benefit you. For example, everything happens for a reason. That's going to benefit you if you truly believe that because you're going to find a reason behind something. Does it mean that it actually happened for that reason? No. No. It's the example they use is a porcupine throwing its quills. If you believe, because that's a widely agreed upon, apparently. I hadn't heard it up until this point.
Yeah, apparently
Porcupines
they teach kids that.
They can throw their quills.
Which they cannot.
Which they can't. But if you believe that, are you safer around porcupines? Because if you get stabbed by one, it works its way in. It can puncture organs. They're pretty fucking gnarly.
Yeah, even if you just get touched by it.
Yeah, if you believe that it throws its quills, then that's constructive. That's good. Does it make it a truth? No.
Yeah.
Same with everything happens for a reason. Okay. And I like to try to think like that because if you try to find some way to make it constructive, then great, you can. But you can't, I'm not saying you can't. I don't believe it to be a logistical truth. It's metaphorical, which it's going to make you feel better. It might keep you safer. It might make you treat certain situations better, but that doesn't mean that it's set in stone.
Exactly. It's just like the belief of like, there are some people that religion really works for them and like they're happier because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a detriment to their life. So like, I don't get mad that they believe in this thing that I don't believe in. Like,
Right.
It's not something to get mad over. It's like, what works for you, if that works for you, as long as it doesn't affect like my happiness or joy, like do that. Cause like, that's cool for you. If it works, like that's awesome. Like I'm really happy for you. But like, there's this idea of like, people want to subscribe to their thing. And it's like karma, if you believe in it, I think comes around in a totally different way. Like if I repay my friend Jake with this piece of technology, Jake isn't always going to be the one giving me back that goodwill or whatever.
Right.
It may circle around in some other weird way that eventually comes back to me, but I'm not expecting it to happen. And so when something good happens, like I'm not even necessarily thinking, oh, that was probably because that one time I did that one nice thing. I just take things as they come, and I don't necessarily think like, oh, bad things are happening to me, I must have been doing bad things, or good things are happening to me, I must have been doing good things. I'm just trying to put shit out into the world that's good, and whatever I return from that, awesome.
Well, I think it's also going to deal with it. If you do something good, then you're a happier person. Your perception of events that happen to you are going to be with a happier mindset. So if I do something good for somebody, then in my, I feel good about that. So the next event or thing that happens to me, I'm already going to have a good, even if it's something terrible, I'm still going to be starting off with a baseline of happier than if I didn't do something for someone. So that's where you can say, oh, that's good karma. It's like, well, maybe that's also because you just already felt good. And then something happened, so you're probably going to see what happened as even better than you would have if you didn't already feel good.
Yeah. It's kind of like the thoughts and prayers thing. It's like, are your thoughts really doing anything? Probably not. Is it a good time to be grateful for what you have and like hug your loved ones a little tighter? Yes.
But
your thoughts and prayers, like a lot of times it's just posturing, like thoughts and prayers out to the victims, like on Facebook. It's like,
yeah.
I understand the need to like want to put something out there because it's like something bad happened. Like I want to say something and I want to show that I have my condolences and I want to seem like a sympathetic person, but like, there's not much you can do when people are dead.
That's where social media is. I shouldn't say a problem because it goes way deeper than the social media aspect, but like the people who say my thoughts and prayers, and I'm going to quote a stand-up comic here, and I don't, it's pretty harsh, but it has a hit to it. And he's like, what that's really saying is like, my thoughts and prayers to the people in Aurora, my thoughts and prayers to the Boston Marathon. A lot of that's like, don't forget about me today, which, like I said, like that's a heavy hitter.
That's good, man. That's good.
But there's a little bit of truth behind that. Because the people who I see posting thoughts and prayers, I don't think they're shitty people. And then I see that and go, okay, they're a good person. But there's something within all of us that, and I'm not saying I'm I don't put thoughts and prayers, but condolences and that kind of stuff. There's a part of all of us that, wants to make sure that people know that we acknowledge that it made us unhappy because it should, which it should go without saying. If somebody wants to say, I don't give a shit about, that's way more rare, because we can all come to an agreement that when something terrible happens, we all not feel for them because we can't put ourselves in their shoes, but we all think that it's an unfortunate event. And I'm sorry, but thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers haven't worked and that's why I get upset when I see someone I've been praying that I was going to get this, new job. I've been praying and it happened. It's like, well, what about all those unanswered prayers that led to death? So why did yours get for, a car or for a job promotion, or that NFL player who scored the touchdown? I'd like to thank God for letting me score this touchdown and letting thousands of children die in the tsunami. But I also agree with you on, if it doesn't, being religious, I think, is a great thing. If you don't use it to condemn others, which pretty much all religions condemn others who don't agree with them, most, I'd say. But I shouldn't say I don't judge, because I'm sure I do a little bit. I'm hearing me talk about it. But if you're using it just to make your life better, and then you don't use it to condemn or judge others because they question your beliefs, then great. Religion's fucking awesome. If it gives you reason to be here, your own personal why, then keep that shit up. Yeah. But once you use it to condemn others to hell, or to say that I'm better because I believe this, then I don't think I'm better than someone who's religious because I believe in something different. But I at least know that I don't condemn people to hell or to being a shitty person if they don't believe what I believe in. Yeah,
I totally agree. There's that's where I kind of draw the line with that kind of stuff, is as long as you're doing your thing and it doesn't affect me, and you're not calling me out and all that stuff,
and you're not trying to sign it into law, and you're not trying to, that's another big issue, is that separation of church and state, which is getting a much bigger gray line. We need to bring
the separation of church and state thing is weird, because on one hand, it's for example, you've got the separation of church and state thing on abortion, let's say. Okay. And some people will call it a religious issue. But, some people, there's just some people that are so that's a gray issue.
Yeah.
There's not a definite day where you can say on day 36 of the fetus, it's not a person. On day 37, it is. That's a gradual, what considers it.
Everyone's going to have a different line.
That's when you have to really do some digging and be completely honest with what's going on here. Because I actually listened to a podcast where this guy was saying I think even freaking, if you believe in abortion all the way up until birth, you might as well just believe in killing babies all the way up until they don't have memories. Because it's it's kind of the same thing. And he's to be honest, I'm not even that against post-birth abortion. And it was a Joe Rogan thing, and he's what?
That's gnarly.
And he's dude, I'm serious. We've got overpopulated. This kid, if he's a freaking, the same reasons why people are giving abortion things. They're saying, well, he's a single mom. The baby's not gonna have a good life. It's gonna be struggling its whole life. It's well, then why don't you just kill it afterwards? It's the same thing. It's
obviously
really,
I disagree with that.
It's really, 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 really fucked up, and I agree. I don't agree with it either. But it's kind of it's hard to differentiate those arguments. It's if you're gonna kill it before it comes out the vagina, the day before. I mean, obviously, I don't think anyone's really pushing for day before abortion. It's no one's pushing for that, and I'm not saying they are. There are crazy ass people out there.
There is a point for everyone where logistical reasoning and emotional reasoning hit a weird area, because like you said, the argument between it is like, what's the difference? Like pre-memory, what's the difference on where it is? But that's where I think morality comes in, because once, for some reason that we can't, once the baby's out in the real world, then yeah, you can't. And even like the way stages leading up to it, once
kill babies,
right?
But it's just like, it's kind of like the idea of like factory farming. It's like, I don't want to think about it. I'll just eat the meat.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to think about it. Just kill the baby. I haven't met the baby.
So
I haven't fucking named the baby yet. Just kill it. Just kill
That's
it. Just
so
kill it.
fucked.
Just get rid of it. Flush it out. It's like this whole instant gratification lifestyle that we're all sucked into. And, it's like looking at this baby as like an inconvenience rather than a human life that you'd want to kill. But anyways, leading back to the separation of church and state thing, the reason why I bring that up is like a lot of people, they say, well, especially with like the Planned Parenthood thing, like the defunding of Planned Parenthood, they're saying like, if I believe religiously that abortion is murder, therefore I am...
Your argument's invalid.
With that argument, I'm saying that if abortion is murder, then Planned Parenthood should not be funded by the state, because murder should not be funded by the state. Like, that's their argument. Mm-hmm. And like, there's something to be said about that, like, okay, sure. Like, let's hear the other side of the argument. Yeah. Then the other side of the argument is like, Planned Parenthood helps women, helps them take back their life, because why don't men have to endure this thing? Or like, they're getting birth control, they can control their periods and like all this stuff. And it's like, it all comes down to like, well, at the end of the day, should the state be providing that stuff anyways? Like, it's very weird, like where you can kind of separate this like religious versus moral thing.
I think if your main argument for anything is religion, then when it comes to convincing others that disagree with you because of your main argument being religion, it should be an invalid argument to use in a debate format.
Yeah, if you're like quoting Bible verses in a debate, it's like, okay.
Now if you have some fucking numbers and stuff, like when people have the whole like the argument of, well, when is it too late? Is the heartbeat, is a heart what for you it draws it to the next line? Well, there's some good questions.
Can they speak? Is that it?
Yeah. Is it once
their
it starts
fingertips
kicking and feeling and moving around? Like, well, then yeah, you got some. That's hard to question, and I still think about that, and it's hard to, you have to be open-minded. But if somebody starts spitting out Bible verses to me about why it shouldn't be allowed, then
it's kind of like Bible verse, "Thou shalt not kill." It's like, okay, I understand that it's a Bible verse, but that's also a truth that we live by in our society. Like,
yeah, you don't need a Bible verse for that.
Yeah,
it also says that you should stone women to death when they're on their period, or bring 2 turtles from the nearest priest, or not get tattoos. Can't wear gold. You can't. If a girl's on her period and sits on linens, they have to be burned. It says a lot of shit.
I mean, Connor, you don't agree with all that? Like, what do you?
No, like at least one of them I don't agree with.
I agree with the linens, but not the tattoos.
Yeah.
Stone women on their period if they sit on linens, but tattoos are fucking terrible. You should not get them.
I have my butt tattoo, so I can't say that. But
do you really have your butt tattooed?
Yeah. Well,
what does it say?
It's kind of like the side of the hip.
Wait, I think I've seen it actually.
Yeah, me and my dad we got the Spartan trifecta badge tattooed.
That's tight.
On my 21st birthday after we went to Vegas. It was pretty sweet.
That's awesome.
But yeah, man, damn, we just went down a deep wormhole with the religion and.
But the thing that I wanted to bring it back to, this thing of like where, the left wants the state to be able to fund all medical procedures that are, anything medical procedures is covered under your healthcare. It's like, okay, where do we draw that line? Because is a boob job a medical procedure? Should that be covered under healthcare? Well, deep down inside, I'm a woman with giant tits, but my body just wasn't born with giant tits. I need giant boobs to feel who I really am. So this is a necessary medical procedure, not just physically, but for my mental health. I need giant boobs, damn it. Like, that's kind of the same argument. Like, I'm trying to simplify it, because it's kind of a similar argument to being like, I was born a woman, but I feel like a man. I need this transgender surgery. Newsflash, cutting off your dick or turning or doing some weird procedure down there with your vagina does not turn you into the opposite sex. It only makes it like, okay, yeah, you don't have a dick. Congratulations. You don't have a uterus. You can't have babies. Like you're not a woman. You can't change your chromosomes.
This is where, and that mindset is what gets Jordan Peterson into trouble.
Of course.
But that mindset, like the people who argue that there's no biological difference between a man and a woman, that's false. That's just a flat out lie. There's clearly,
anyone who argues against that is clearly an idiot.
And so then you have these people in Canada where it's now being signed, Bill C-16, I think it is, where you have to use the specified gender pronoun. This kind of goes back to the entitled of like, I deserve big tits because that's what I was born as. Well, we have to acknowledge that there's far ends of each spectrum, and I think Canada, as I speak for our country, my opinion, Barry, should be taken with a grain of salt, as should anyone's.
Or a pound of salt.
Or a pound of salt. Is that you can clearly go too far one way or the other, and so they're very liberal and accepting, but they're going to keep pushing until, and he makes this comparison, they're going to keep pushing until they feel uncomfortable, then they're going to stay there. And then they're going to become comfortable. And they're going to start pushing it again. And you're like, okay, I'll take one step back. Okay, yeah, you can, if you're a boy, but you want to be called Carol, that's fine. And like, I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with it too.
If you want to be called she instead of he, that's fine, which I'm fine with that. Then they kept pushing. Okay, now we're going to invent new pronouns because you think that you were born a worm. And so now instead of saying he or she, I have to say wormkin. Because even as an animal, you don't want to be specified as a gender. You just want to be specified as that exact animal. That's a true one. Wormkin. It's ridiculous. That's people taking advantage of the system. Who the fuck wants to be a worm?
Dude, I was born a worm, bro. I'm depressed as fuck. I'm a skinny ass little worm, bro. Look at my arms.
I don't have arms or legs.
Look at me, bro.
Yeah, and
so... my spirit animal is a worm.
But that's that sense of... that's that very, that's getting on one end of the spectrum too far. And so same goes with the universal healthcare that you were talking about. I don't believe in universal healthcare. Does the idea of it sound phenomenal? Of course. But once you start digging deep and you start asking those types of questions, instead of just promoting something, instead of just promoting for something, really think about what it's going to take and how is that potentially going to be exploited in a negative way? Mm-hmm. Because it's going to get there.
Exactly.
Universal healthcare sounds great. Dude, my medical bills are fucked. With all the shit I do, I get hurt a lot. So I have to spend a lot of money on that kind of stuff. Does the idea of having all that for free sound great? Fuck yeah. But then does that mean that girls who, like you were saying, or guys who want huge tits because they're a girl with big tits in their head, mentally need that, then where do you draw that line?
Well, here's the thing too, is like what happens is doctors are now getting scared, especially with the transgender thing. They're getting scared to turn down these transgender surgeries.
Yeah.
Because they get called out in the media when people go up and they say... I don't think they should turn them down. Yeah, it's like, okay, here's the thing. It's like if a person with schizophrenia or something like that, and one of their personalities, I'm no expert. I could be saying the wrong thing. I probably sound like an idiot right now. But if, let's say, a person with some sort of disorder, they decide that they want to cut their arm off. Are we going to hand them a knife? No, we're probably going to try to put him in some sort of mental institution. Like, dude, this guy wants to cut his arm off. But then all of a sudden, this person says, like, I was born a woman, cut off my dick. Like, we're all just like, all right, let's the government pay for that. Like, it's like universal healthcare is basic. People are saying like, oh, this is a basic human right. Being the person you are is a basic human right. It's like
cutting your dick off is a basic human right. If I want to cut off my dick,
do it yourself.
There.
I shouldn't have to pay for it. I shouldn't have to pay for you to cut off your dick.
You're right.
I don't want to.
Now, but would you feel comfortable paying somebody's cancer treatment if you knew it was coming out of your taxes and that means you couldn't get that new car? But so there's that.
I don't know if it's a basic human right. That's all I'm trying to say. It's a privilege.
Right.
And if I just don't think the government should be involved in it. I just don't think it should. And that's a personal preference. Like, I think the government should have some sort of role in taking care of its citizens. Like, I agree in some sort of government. I'm not an anarchist. I'm not fucking crazy. But, like, and if someone has cancer, yes, of course, like, those should be subsidized in some way. Like, can't,
Someone would have to draw a line,
but
and nobody wants to draw a line.
If you're a fat, like here's the thing, it's like, I try as best as I can to take care of my body. Mm-hmm. If there's like a fat slob out there that has all these medical issues because they've chosen to not exercise their entire life, play video games their entire life, eat shitty food and fast food their entire life, and drink a gallon of soda every day,
and, then
they have all these problems, I'm sorry, bro. Like, did you not see it coming? Like, it's like, I hate being this guy, but it's like, it's 2017. There's no excuses for, it's hilarious when people make the argument, it's 2017, bro. Do better. Like it's 2017, like that's an argument, but it's like, in the year that we're in, there isn't very much excuse as to, oh, I didn't know that McDonald's was bad. Bitch, the fuck you didn't.
Yeah.
You know that eating McDonald's and drinking a gallon of soda every day is not good for your health. You might not know all the little nuances of eating, okay, but you freaking eat more vegetables and don't eat fast food, you're going to be a lot more healthy than you were. And stop drinking soda and drink more water.
Right. No,
and stop drinking beer.
Yeah. That's where every single case is a case-by-case basis. And that's why you can't draw a hard line onto who gets this universe or this potential healthcare funded by us, where and they can't send a poll to every single person saying, here's everyone's situation, which one would you like your tax? That's an idea I had not an idea, but like, what if when you got your taxes or, you had to pay taxes, you got to choose? I want to go towards education, I think, and then idiots who don't think that the EPA should be funded, they can choose not to fund it. And so technically we would get a general consensus of every American on where they want their tax money going. But you can't do that with the healthcare system, because they're not going to send you tens of thousands of cases to say which one you want to donate money to with their full history. And so when it comes to healthcare, man, I have no problem saying that I don't fucking know what we should do. I think it's the same with here's going to be a hot button topic for a lot of people, guns. I don't think there's an answer.
Yeah.
When it comes to a lot of people who are anti-gun, have the argument of Australia. It's like, well, look how many gun deaths Australia have and everything. It's a lot lower.
It's invalid.
But my biggest argument against that is like, it is true that there are less gun violence in Australia. Duh.
Virtually none.
And guns are illegal in Australia. We're too deep in a hole. I mean,
you can't
honestly,
close Pandora's box.
I wish that guns were never invented. Like, of course, what if we went to war and we still had to use fucking swords? Like, yeah, then innocent, I mean, yeah, sure, there would still be innocent casualties, but fucking bare knuckle brawl wars, fuck yeah. But no, we have guns, and so what should we do?
You can't close Pandora's box. It's just the bottom line.
Yeah, I don't know. It's too late.
Here's my bottom line, because I've talked about this a lot recently. Like, regulate them like cars. Bottom line, regulate them like cars. It's simple. You make everyone take a fucking test. If you don't have a gun license on you, when you're driving a car and an officer pulls you over, if you present your license that says, I am legally allowed to drive this car. Bottom line, you also own the car. You show your insurance. When you buy a gun, you buy gun insurance, ensuring that if you mishandle it properly and all that, like if someone gets hurt or whatever, you have insurance against it. Shit, if you want to be the insurer of that, okay. But, all insurance is just like spreading out the probability that bad things are going to happen. That's fine. Spread it out amongst all gun owners. So if you have a gun, you have to have gun insurance. You also have to have a license proving that you've taken a class, you know how to properly handle the gun. You also have to have it licensed. So just like a car, everyone has a license plate on their car. All the numbers, all the serial numbers of guns are registered, all that stuff. If you're caught with a car with no license plate, just like if you're caught with a gun with the serial numbers etched off of it, that's bad. All that stuff. It's like, just regulate it like you regulate cars.
Well, here's the issue.
I would have no problem. Everyone drives a car and no one has a problem. No one complains that it's too hard to get into a car. It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
You go to the DMV, which sucks, but that's about it.
Well, here's the issue I have with that is if that was implemented better but they're already out there.
Yeah.
It's not like that's going to be implemented. Like, criminals have guns. Bottom line.
Yep.
So they're like, oh, we need to be stricter gun laws. And like someone was saying, like a lot of the gun violence, like it's someone who went
And there's a lot of people out there with no licenses that are still driving a car. Like, it's just the bottom line. But it's like, you can at least start to regulate that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but it would take a while.
Of course it would.
It would take a really long time.
Of course.
And it would probably be kind of ugly for a while. Like, if you start taking
It would suck.
Yeah.
Especially for people that own a lot of guns. Like, it would suck. But like...
I shouldn't say I love guns. Guns are mechanically beautiful.
Yeah, of course. They are. They're a work of art.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're just so intricate and they look badass.
Of course.
But I don't know.
Taboo to say though. Here's the thing. Like I don't even own a gun.
Me neither.
And I respect gun owners. I think that owning guns is very respectable. Not to say that I won't ever own a gun in my lifetime. I probably will. But it's like it's a hard subject to talk about, especially with
it's situational.
What's going on.
It's very situational.
Yeah, but I think this is a good segue here. If we're gonna regulate dangerous things, why are you allowed to go skydiving, Connor Peterson? That's a dangerous activity,
Don't you dare
Connor Peterson.
put regulations on my skydiving.
That is a dangerous activity, Connor Peterson. You should not.
Don't act like you haven't done it.
We shouldn't allow people to jump out of perfectly good planes. That is a dangerous sport. What's the deal, Connor?
You tell me. I brought you. You know what it's about, man. Don't act like since our last podcast, you came out with me, man. We went for a jump together. It was a lot of fun.
Since our last podcast, you've gotten way more into skydiving too.
Yeah,
like down the rabbit hole.
Where was I when we first? Did I start my class? Or was I talking about starting?
I think you started you just did your first couple jumps or something like that.
Okay, well that was 2 months ago.
Maybe more. Maybe it was like back in July or maybe August.
I could check my log, but it's probably. I think it was in
like
August. 2.5, 3 months ago. I think it was because it's not that long. But yeah, I'm at 58 jumps now, and like 6 last weekend.
Wow.
Yeah,
58 jumps.
It's taken over, man.
That's as many podcasts as I've released as of today. I'm catching up. I need to keep up with my podcast launch and your jumps that you've done.
We'll have our own little competition. Whoever has the higher numbers.
That's funny.
Yeah, man. It's like we've said. I have had a lot of passions in my life: skateboarding, OCR racing, rock climbing. I've done all the other regular sports growing up as a kid. I took soccer very seriously for a long portion of my life. So one of my issues has always been, but like switching back and forth or trying to find something new or having a new interest. But I've never been as excited about something as I am with skydiving.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've tried a lot of things. And my parents always joke about like his thing of the year, I've never felt this passionate about doing something. And like you went on that tandem, which like that's how I got hooked, but obviously like I didn't really truly get it until about midway through getting my license, when I could start jumping without a coach holding on to me or being strapped someone to a tandem like you did. It's yeah, man, the whole process, people think that it's just about that free fall, that jumping out but dude, the whole entire process of skydiving is like just bliss to me. And yeah, so the day we went, that was a lot of fun. You liked your jump a lot.
Of course, I did too.
Yeah, you did. That's a damn good deal they have there.
Yeah.
Everyone, go to Spaceland. Come jump with me. But
Skydive Spaceland. Check it out.
They're the bomb.
It's dope.
But yeah, that was a fun. I still wasn't licensed, or I was just licensed when you did that.
Because you did a solo.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I did. Yeah. Oh, is that the one where I did the cross leg? Okay. It was
afterwards, but like I don't know. I can't remember. You're still doing like the training part.
Yeah, I was still through the coach. That was still in the getting. Yeah, I was still getting licensed. Because I remember you posted on the Facebook when I actually got my license.
Yeah.
I was just on the latter half where you got to kind of make up your jumps as you go, but you still had to jump with an instructor.
Yeah.
And now we just have a group of fun jumpers, and we just go out and make up ridiculous shit sometimes.
Now that you're like fully licensed, how much does it cost you to go out and jump?
It's $25 per jump, and then it was $25 to rent gear every jump. So each jump was $50. But I bought my own gear not too long ago, so I have my own parachute and all that, and helmet, and don't have my own jumpsuit yet, but I don't like jumping with a jumpsuit. Which drives people crazy. But
why do they not like it?
in order to, like, the skills that you have to learn, flying's hard. Flying isn't easy. You know, you see some of these videos like that I share on, or like I repost, I should say, of these free flyers doing these phenomenal like dances in the sky. That's really hard. So even just flying normal is difficult. Flying into a formation, getting together, you know, one person's on their back, the other docks or grabs on their wrist, and they do a certain spin. Like, that's really difficult. So when you wear a suit, first off, it's easier to fly in a suit because it's you know your drag is spread out evenly between your legs and your arms, and also every single time you jump it, you're going to have the same drag effect, so you can work on skills a little bit easier. Whereas if I wear skinny jeans one day with a big jacket, and then, you know, I just jumped all throughout the summer with shorts and tank top, you know, I'd fly differently, and you can feel it. So it's a little bit harder to tune those skills when you're not wearing a jumpsuit. Plus, you fall a little bit slower in a jumpsuit depending on the type that you have. So you typically
you get more time.
You might get more time, or like if somebody else in the group, you know, like if I'm jumping with my friend Cody, fucking dude floats, and so like it is better for me to wear a jumpsuit when I'm with him because he's so light and he falls a lot slower than I do. If I put on a jumpsuit, it's going to be a little bit easier for me to float up and for him to sink down to me and for us to match levels. So that's one thing that people don't realize, how, you know, it takes a lot of work and skill. So yeah, we try to mess around. We make up a lot of fun jumps and crazy exits. And one of my original instructors is like, man, keep having all this fun, do all that, but work on your skills too. You know, like do all your crazy flips and, you know, weird crazy shit, but work on formations, work on matching levels with people, work on carving around formations, because I eventually want to do camera work for it. So, which I got a long way to go, but yeah, it's just there's so many avenues that you can take this sport, and I don't see myself ever getting sick of this.
That's tight.
Yeah, which I wanted you to get certified with me, dude, because you loved it.
I know, man. That's the thing, is I just feel like right now, like I've actually thought about it a lot. I was thinking about it earlier today even, because, you know, I knew we were going to talk about skydiving, and I was like, dang, it looks so fun to just go out and do it by yourself.
It's bliss.
Because to be 100% honest, like when I did it tandem, so like for people listening, you know, I was attached to somebody. Like,
not me. I'm not. When I say come jump with me, I'm a long way from being tandem certified, but
yeah, you won't be attached to Connor, but I was like attached to an instructor, and to be honest, like I wasn't really scared at all, because I'm thinking like, this guy's totally experienced. If I die, he's gonna die too. Like, I'm not worried that like something's gonna go wrong. They've done hundreds and hundreds of jumps, like
thousands.
Yeah, I'm not worried. So that's the thing, is like I wasn't that scared, but I feel like the first time I would be going out to go by myself, that would be nuts for me.
It's
that would be nuts.
It's beautiful to. I'm like saying.
I'm getting kind of like goosebumps just thinking about it.
Saying, for lack of a better term, not accepting death, but just realizing your own vulnerability. Like, because people ask me, like, how does that not scare you? I'm like, are you shitting me? Of course it scares me. That's why I do it. Like, I get outside of my comfort zone. That's, you know, the cliche, life begins outside the comfort zone. There's this kid at the, there's this guy at the drop zone, it was a buddy of mine, and every single day before we jump, he throws up.
Really? Every day?
From nerves, yeah. It's not before every jump, but we all get to the drop zone, we're mocking up jumps, we're like, okay, we'll do a 4-way formation with a train exit, and then he goes, oh, okay, guys, I'm going to go to the restroom, I'm going to go do my thing, I'll be right back. We're like, all right, man, see you in a little bit. And we know he's going to throw up, and he's just like, whew, man, just puked a ton, just because of nerves. And so when I look out that door, especially the first jump, I'm looking out and I'm going, what the fuck? Which I'm sure is going to go away eventually, but for right now it hasn't. And I'm still like, this is nuts. Like, I'm scared. Awesome. Let's get over it. So yeah, your first few solo jumps, and it takes a while for it to go away. If you're jumping with someone new, trying a new formation, like, yeah, you're scared, but you know it's not dangerous. You're scared. It's like It's like how some people are super scared of getting on roller coasters. It's like, yeah, but you know it's not dangerous, but it's scary because it's outside your comfort zone. It's something that in your head you can put all these worst case scenarios, but like why aren't people scared of driving? Fucking, we're driving thousands of pounds of metal 90 miles an hour around other people, and people make mistakes.
They're idiots.
People make lots of mistakes. So
people are stupid.
Yeah, becoming scared is part of it. I mean, that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
And
that's funny you say that. Yeah, it's totally like driving a car. Driving a car is, I feel like, even probably more dangerous than skydiving in some ways.
It definitely is. Skydiving is far, I have a lot of friends who use that excuse, like, of course, like, no, I want to live, or, I think was it my neighbor who was just like, I have a kid now, so I can't be doing, making those risks, which, very biased opinion of mine, of course, but it's like, dude, you're driving to work's more dangerous, man.
Yeah.
It's and the risk reward ratio is much higher for me with skydiving. It's not for some people. Some people, the goal is to knock it off their bucket list. That's what it was for me originally. And then they cross off the list. They're like, sweet, done, off the list. That was crazy. Later. But for me, it was one of those things that once I knew that existed, I couldn't live without it. I just started thinking about it too much, and that's when I just signed up for the course, which I was not in the position to do.
Yeah.
But
financially
was not. Yeah, I'm a very impulsive person, and a lot of members of my family and friends will say that that's a negative characteristic that I have, and oftentimes it is. There's lots of times I made impulse decisions, and it's come back to bite me in the ass. There's also times that I've made impulse decisions that have drastically improved my life against what most people would say I should have done. And one of those things is getting skydive certified and buying my parachute. I have some credit card debt right now because of it, but I didn't have any leading up to it. And that book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, talks about choosing your suffering. So since I chose for this to be my suffering, I'm not going to let it affect me negatively. I still struggle with that. I'll be thinking about how these bills are, I'm in debt right now and I need to focus on this, and I can't believe I made. But you know what? I chose that struggle, and I'm really happy that I did. So that makes it a lot easier to deal with the negative things that happen because of that. Instead of saying, I can't believe it. You know what? Would I be willing to give that away? I'm really happy with the choices I made to get into this struggle that I'm in. Mm-hmm. Just like we were talking about, if you get something, there's going to be problems that come with it no matter what. So, you can choose your struggle, and that's just the one that I happen to choose. And I wouldn't give it up for the world. If somebody was asking me, my coworker was asking me the other day, $10 million a year, then you had a great job, but you could never jump again. Would you do it? And honestly, and this is a very selfish thing to say, you can talk about how, I could, take care of my family. I wouldn't do it.
Really?
Yeah. It's one of those things where once I know it exists, I'd be making $10 million a year thinking about skydiving.
That's crazy.
Which is absurd. And to a lot of the listeners, I know that's absurd. I know it's fucking insane and sounds pretty stupid, but I can't explain it. I don't intend to be. There's no way to articulate what it does for me. So
that's crazy, man. That's so sick.
Yeah.
Because see, it's all about what the goal is. It's all about what the goal is. It's if you set your mind to something. If your goal is to make $10 million, number one, you have to ask yourself why. Because the money doesn't mean anything. It's just a number in an account.
Yeah.
Make it once, make it a year, make it consistently. Why do you need to make $10 million? What are you going to do with the money? And for someone, they might be I want to make $10 million a year so I can take care of my family and skydive every day.
Oh, tempt me with a good time. Yeah.
But
there has
to be a reason. And so for me, when I skydived with you for the first time. Skydove.
I don't know. I'm fucking with you.
When I skydivided for the first time with you, and we were we were, I was doing tandem and you were doing like the solo thing. Like I did like really enjoy it. Like I went a second time, like it was dope. But on the other hand, like I know that if I went like a solo, it would be a different experience for me. But at the same time, I have to kind of like hedge my, like, I don't know, not excitement level, but I'm kind of like, I know that this is something I could really get into, but I didn't necessarily have that level of like, I want to do this like all the time, I guess.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's normal. But the thing is that I want to get to a point where it's like, I want to be able to skydive more because I really did enjoy that, but I don't necessarily know if that's like my quote unquote like thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, I always have this weird like attachment issue with like making a thing my thing. Like even with this podcast.
Me too.
Like
with all
because you've done a million things. You're the OCR guy, you're the skydiving guy. You're the fitness guy, you're lifting, rock climbing guy.
To make something your thing, you have to take away other things you like.
Yep. That's why I don't tend to watch a lot of like Netflix because I feel like it's just asking for me to get sucked into something.
Yeah, don't start Rick and Morty, man. That shit. Yeah,
I've watched quite a few episodes though. It's funny. It's very funny.
Yeah, but I mean that's
But see, my thing that I get sucked into is like social media and YouTube and stuff because it's such micro content. Like a YouTube video, I'm like, it's a 5-minute video, dude. I don't care.
Yeah,
it's a 5-minute video. But how many thousands, like probably thousands of hours have I spent like watching YouTube videos? You
need to grow more trees. With that app, I downloaded it after I heard someone in the Andrew Dice podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, Forest. Yeah, it's and this was another. I might have ironically watched this podcast or lecture on YouTube, but it was in a book. I don't fucking know where I got it from. But we are very addicted to being sedated, and the term sedated in my head is, removing yourself from the physical reality that you're in right now. So drinking, you get sedated. Smoking weed, you get sedated. And I'm not an opponent to either of those. I do both. I enjoy them. But you are...
God.
I know, right?
You're admitting this publicly.
There go my non-existent sponsors.
There goes your hopes for political office, Connor.
Yeah, shit, because I had all the
Someone's
votes.
scouring this right now in 20 years, and you're trying to run for president, and you're screwed.
Oh, man.
Sorry, bro.
Sorry, people of America.
The Andrew Dice podcast strikes again.
Make America stoked again. But,
dude, you need shirts of that. That would be dope. Right. Make America stoked again? That'd be sick.
Hey, I've been thinking of the ridiculous idea of a brand called Comfort Kills, which would be ironic because the clothing would be very comfortable. But I digress. Where was I going before I talked about that? Something about
you were saying sedated.
Same with Instagram and social media, and what it does is it sedates us from the reality that we're in right now, because the way our brains, at least mine especially, is wired is pessimistic. So if I'm living in this reality right now, instead of being content and happy with the present moment, which you hear a lot about mindfulness and meditation and all that kind of stuff. Typically, you're going to have bad thoughts, or you're going to think of... So it's easier to sedate yourself than to deal with thoughts that you naturally have during the present moment. And if I can avoid doing that, because that has a track record of fucking up my head, or of, either not being constructive or being boring is another thing. People find it very boring because we live in such a high energy lifestyle now, that being bored is an issue. Instead of being relaxed, we see it as being bored. Instead of being content with the current situation, we see it as, we start to formulate these crazy scenarios in our head and arguments that haven't happened. And well, if I said those shower arguments that you have. So we look to Instagram and we look at really hot girls' butts, guys living...
I don't do that.
You don't look... Yeah, you don't. Those fucking creeps...
There's fucking pedophiles out there. No, I'm just kidding.
I follow a few accounts.
I definitely do.
But
dude, they pop on my Explore page.
Oh yeah, me too.
Instagram knows that I like butts.
They know. But you're sedating yourself from, and which it's not bad to sedate yourself every now and then. and me too, I do it too much, man. I catch myself looking at Instagram too often, and it's because it takes me away from the present moment. Because I don't have to think. All I have to do is look and be mindlessly numbed to butts and other skydiving videos and workout videos, or somebody who drives their Ferrari onto their helicopter on the way to their yacht. And I compare my life to that. I step out of the bubble, look at my reality, and go, well, this is shitty by comparison, so I'm going to get back to scrolling.
Yep.
And that's something that I'm still struggling with now. Of
course.
Is putting down my phone.
Of course.
I've gotten a lot better at it, much better. And every now and then I catch myself and I go like, what the fuck am I doing? Why do I care? I put my phone down.
My thing that I've been struggling with is like, I know for you, you've been killing it on Instagram.
I'm trying to, man. I am trying to promote myself so that I can start to get sponsors, or, at least get a little bit more reach, because at least in the things that I'm doing, the way that you can somewhat either make a living or inspire others to push limits, or, whatever you want your reason to be, I kind of want mine to be a little bit in each basket. Like, I'd like to make some money at it, while other people are like, oh, obviously there's a little bit of ego behind it, because, oh, that's badass, he's doing cool stuff. Maybe I should go do this. Maybe, you know what? Fuck it, I need to go do something crazy and outside my comfort zone. That's kind of my, my goals with it. But then I find myself sitting there scrolling and fucking doing things that don't matter. But yeah, no, I'm trying to get it up on the Instagram, trying to learn how to. I like creating content just like you do. You like doing these podcasts. I like editing videos, man. I'm
starting to get addicted to that as well.
Reliving experiences is, it's awesome to be able to look back and not only watch the video, but create the content in a way that it's not, obviously it's not lying, but you make it that much more entertaining to relive, because you get to add effects, you get to add music behind it, you get to, and so I'm still learning. If you go to my Instagram and watch the videos, like, they're not stellar. Like, and I know that I have so much to learn, but it's a lot of fun. So why not share it? If it's something that I want to learn anyways, why not share it, and why not promote it? Because I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
So it's, now I'm not on your level yet, dude. You've gotten what, tens of thousands of?
Not followers yet. I have like almost 5,000.
Nice.
But still.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been fun. The thing that I struggle with is, like, I'm trying to be strategic with what I'm posting and following people strategically and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'll find myself.
It's a game.
Yeah, it's all a game. It's just like, it's all a game. But, I find myself trying to be productive on there, and then finding myself scrolling through memes, or like finding a rabbit hole of Instagram accounts. Like, oh, this guy was tagged in this picture. Oh, what is this guy? Oh,
if you're if you're trying to be productive in Instagram or Facebook, well, you're already on the platform that's notoriously known from distracting you from getting shit done. Mm-hmm. So if I'm on Instagram and I'm on there to make a nice post, or to maybe even do a little, this is a justification process that I have that I really should cut out, but I say I'm going to kind of research. Let me see what these. I love watching the Red Bull and GoPro guys, because they're phenomenal at editing these videos, and they do crazy stuff. I get ideas of new types of exits out of the plane, or new, just seeing like things to add to my bucket list, and watching how they edit their videos, or how, what gets the most engagement. And then that starts the wormhole of just scrolling through, and then I just click the home button, I go to my timeline for a little bit, and then whatever reason I originally went to Instagram it's
totally lost.
Totally lost. It's gone.
Yeah,
it's really hard to stay focused.
Yeah.
When what you're working on is the distraction itself.
Yeah. My friend Brittany, she does social media for like some really big companies, and I asked her about that recently, because I was like, I'm really struggling. Like, I'm trying to be productive on these platforms, and she was like, yeah, dude, like, it's hard. Like, sometimes it's really hard, because like, you're trying to get work done, but you just get lost, because that's what the platform is. And she was like, the best advice I have is to try to plan out all of your posts as much as possible outside of the apps. So edit the picture outside the app, create your caption outside of the app. Don't type it in the caption box. Type it in some other notes app and then copy and paste it in. Create, even if you're going to put a block of hashtags at the end, create those ahead of time. Do everything you can in pre-planning as much as possible. So when the time comes, you can set a reminder. Oh, yeah, you wanted to post a post at 2 p.m. today. You just post in the picture, copy and paste it. And that's been the most helpful thing for me that I've been able to do, is trying to do it outside of the platforms. And then once I'm ready, I execute, and then I jump right back out of the platform.
I should try that.
It's really helpful.
Yeah.
It's been very helpful. I was very grateful for that advice. And I already kind of sort of did a little bit of that. Like with some of my hashtags, I already kind of did that and stuff like that. But it's been helpful. And also just having like a calendar, kind of like a content calendar is helpful. Sometimes it can be overkill. But for me, for example, with like trying to put out my podcast, like I know, okay, Tuesday, I'm trying to get Connor's episode out. What do I need before Tuesday? Okay, that means that I need to have all the show notes ready. I need to have the Instagram post ready. I need to have the album art edited in Photoshop already. I need to have my intro recorded and mixed into the episode already. Like there's all these steps that I need to go through. So then like having that content calendar of like, okay, so if I want to have it out by Tuesday, then that means I also want to post on Instagram on Tuesday. So I've got to have that post already. Like there's all the things that go into it, but being able to like set that all up ahead of time has been way more helpful. Because I think a lot of times people just set out to like, okay, cool, yeah, I'll put this out on Tuesday. But then do you even have the picture edited? Like, is it ready to go? Is the caption ready? Do you know what you're going to say?
With any venture in life or any goals that you have, having a checklist is pretty huge. I try to write a to-do list every single morning. I fuck up some mornings. Some mornings I'm just like anyone else.
What's your morning routine? Sorry, keep going, but I want to ask you what your morning routine is.
Okay, write a to-do list is one of those, and if you have something like what you were saying, you write out. If you have something that you do often, write out procedures for it and stick to those. My morning routine, it varies a little bit, but for the most part, it's the same. Like tomorrow, it's going to be different for me because I'm hurt and can't go to the gym, which I still might do, but I'll probably go for a hike. But I wake up at, Monday through Friday, I wake up at 6. And I try my best not to ever miss that, not to ever hit snooze. I mess up. I have my oh shit alarm, and there's been a few times where I made poor decisions the night before, or just for what odd reason I slept through my alarm. I'm a pretty heavy sleeper. But I try to wake up at 6 a.m. and 90% of the time I do. And then I do a Wim Hof breathing method when I wake up as my coffee is being brewed, which, have you tried I showed you the Wim Hof.
Yeah.
For anyone who's not.
It's like you breathe in like all the way and then not exhale all the way, and then breathe in all the way and not exhale all the way.
You breathe in all the way and then you exhale naturally.
Okay.
So you don't go, take a deep breath and breathe it all out until you're completely out of air in your lungs. And then you don't do that. You just breathe deep in.
So you basically like breathe in until you can't breathe in anymore, but on your exhale, you don't breathe everything out. You just breathe out a normal exhale.
Yeah, you just relax the lungs pretty much. And
how many breaths do you do?
The rule of thumb is 30, but you can kind of feel, because what you're doing, the very, very lame way of talking about the science behind it, because obviously it goes way deeper into ways that I don't understand or
that
can't.
He doesn't even understand some of it.
Right. Is that you're oxygenating the blood, which kind of makes sense. So when you take really deep inhales, you inhale oxygen, you exhale the carbon dioxide. So you inhale the oxygen and you're just exhaling only the amount that your body finds necessary. Is that natural exhale. You're not forcing yourself to exhale more. So eventually you're doing this big time oxygen buildup. And see, like this starts to sound ridiculous, but when you try it, so you'll start to feel like a little bit of tingles. When you start to get an oxygen surplus in your body, you have side effects from it, and that's going to be tingles, maybe a little bit of lightheadedness. And so, as he likes to put it, kind of charged. But you definitely start, yeah. And so you start to feel that, and once you start to feel that, I'll do 5 or 6 more, and usually it's right around 30. I make 30 a minimum because sometimes I'm like, oh shit, but sometimes I hit 30, I'm like, I'm not feeling it, so I just keep doing it until I feel it. And on the last breath, you exhale all the way. Not the naturally, you exhale all the way. You get all the air out. And
What kind of pace do you go at? Like you're just
with the breathing?
Yeah, are you like
No,
you're
I'm
like,
not hyperventilating. Yeah, not even that much of a pause, just
gotcha.
and so I continue to do that, and then on that last
Even just doing that, like I can feel something.
yeah.
It's interesting.
And you exhale all the way at the very end, and then you hold your breath. And you can choose to close your eyes. I try to stay completely still, and what's happening with that is that you've released all the carbon dioxide. Your body is still in this oxygen surplus because you've been building up that amount of oxygen coming in. And you can hold your breath far longer than I bet you could if you just go and start holding your breath right now. Like my record's like 2 minutes and 40 something seconds, and it was the third round because you'll get better. You do that once and say you hold it for 1:10, and then once you hold your breath, you time it, and then once you can't stand it anymore, you take one big inhale, and then you hold your breath for 10 to 15 more seconds with that inhale. I see it gets a little fuzzier for me on the science behind that, but that's, you've used up that oxygen surplus that you had, and your body goes, I need more. So you do a quick inhale and a quick, replenishing that oxygen that your body, desired, and then you exhale the carbon dioxide, and then you just repeat that process, 2 or 3 times. I try to get at least 3 every single morning. And typically...
And that's Wim Hof's breathing method.
Wim Hof breathing method. WIM.
HOF.
I think there's a dash or a space. HOF.
You can just type in the Iceman, you'll find him.
Yeah, he's fucking crazy.
He's a beast.
But you'll have this weird, at least I have this weird, my ears will start to ring a little bit, but it's a little meditative because obviously when you're being mindful of your own breath, that's what meditation is. So when you're doing this exercise, you're focusing on your breathing a lot because you have to in order to do it properly. So in that sense alone, it's constructive. But the other potential side effects, whether it's pseudoscience or not, there's might be placebo playing, maybe not, maybe there's true science.
He's done a lot of really interesting tests, though.
Yeah, that's hard to argue. But you get this weird kind of euphoric state, and like if I get super stressed out or if I'm having a bad day or bad thoughts, we all have days where, no matter how much we meditate or how much, those bad thoughts are there. And Wim Hof helps me a lot. If I'm having a bad day or if I'm having bad thought processes or it's just, just not feeling it for the day, I'll just either go sit outside or sit in here. You can do it anywhere. That's a great thing. Shouldn't do it while driving. You get dizzy. But yeah, man, it's definitely a quick way to kind of do a hard reset.
Interesting.
So I start with that with the morning.
So when you so alarm goes off.
Mm-hmm.
You get out of bed.
Well, so alarm goes off, get out of bed. Obviously, typical stuff. Brush my teeth, go to the restroom. I used to do the showers, but now that I go to the gym, I wait till after. So I do that, make sure my gym bag is packed up, and typically I pack it the night before, but I always do a check to make sure that I have everything. And then that's when I get all I grind up my coffee beans, put it in my coffee maker, click brew, and I'll have music going or a podcast I was listening to recently, and I'll do my Wim Hof thing. So once that happens, if I have time after doing all of that, because sometimes I decide to do 3, 4, 5 rounds if I feel I need it. Sometimes I do 2 and I'm like, I feel fucking great. I'll try to knock out a little bit of reading. I like to have a little bit of a gray area between that and leaving to go to the gym, just so I'm not rushed to do anything.
Yeah. What time do you normally end up going to the gym? Like
I'm usually at the gym by 6:45 or 7.
Wow.
Yeah, that's because I have to drop off my dog at my parents' house, and recently my parents have been meeting me there because I trained them there at that time. So, grab Lola, that's my dog. I take her to my parents' house, drop her off, get to the gym.
So between 6 and 6:45, you get all that done. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take long to wake up.
Do the
gym bag
breathing
is packed, done. Wim Hof breathing method. Maybe
when do you
maybe
meditate?
8 minutes. Night.
Okay.
Typically, I do mini meditations throughout the day sometimes, where it might just be 5 minutes.
I think that might be
in
more
my office
beneficial
chair.
for me to do it at night because I sometimes find trouble getting to that sleep mode.
Yeah, it's if I have a very active brain, as I'm sure you do too.
Of course.
We're both, at least to my assumption, pretty high wired.
Yeah.
So
I'm always
it
thinking.
makes it hard to fall asleep. So if you're able to if you allow those thoughts, meditate at night, allow those thoughts to come in, and then it's easier to go to sleep because you've given time to let those thoughts come in and to notify that they're there, realize if they're worth thinking about, or just get the thinking out of the way, and then you can kind of start to go to bed with a clear mind. I also like to, if I'm going to go do a long reading binge, like if I'm going to go to the park, and I like to set up my Eno, and if I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to get like a bunch of pages, and I read for these 2 hours because I like this book. I'll meditate before I do that because I don't want to be reading one of those people that reads 3 or 4 pages, and I've been thinking about some other shit. So I'm thinking
totally
about
like that.
And then I go, well, I have no idea what I just read. So I'll meditate before I read. And then I'll read 20, 25 pages, realize that that's happening again, meditate, reread the passage, and then continue on.
So meditating meaning you just take a minute to sit down, not do anything except for just get the thoughts out.
Yeah.
Because those thoughts need to come.
A lot of people think that meditating is trying to force those thoughts not to happen, which is easy to confuse with just focus on your breath. Well, that means if you have a thought coming in, you're like, no, I just need to think about breathing. You try to block it out. For me, that's not how it works. You let that thought come in, and then you just let it go, which is hard. You want to hold on to it sometimes and let it.
Keep thinking about it.
Because most of those thoughts lead into what if I, or what if they, or I shouldn't be this, or a lot of, and then you open up this scenario of events that either haven't happened or have already happened that you have no control over. So once you let those thoughts come in and you realize this is not the time to be thinking about that, so I'm just going to let it go because nothing good's going to come from thinking of this. Or even if it is something good, now's not the time. Right now, I'm just going to be in the present moment. I'm not thinking about, if I have a great business idea while I'm meditating, well, I'm not going to think about it right then and there because I'm busy. I'm busy meditating. I'm busy being in the present moment, not thinking about, and then this could happen, and then what if I did this? Which, that doesn't mean that doesn't happen. That's why it's hard to do, because that will start to happen. But then once you have that thought of, I'm meditating right now, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing, then you work on it. It's a skill. It's really hard too.
Yeah, of course. When you're meditating, are you normally sitting upright? If you're meditating?
I switch around. If I start to get discomfort, I've tried to meditate through it. Sitting straight up, cross-legged.
Shoulders down, good posture, all that. It's sometimes hard.
It starts to get uncomfortable.
What I've heard that's good is sitting like that against a wall, because then it supports your back, but you can still retain the good posture.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I will sit on a pillow, so that'll raise my hips up, because I'm not sitting cross-legged is difficult for me.
Yeah, same here.
It's sad. But I make sure that I stay comfortable, but I'm not too picky about it. So I'll usually start sitting upright, because at night, before I start meditating, I do a 10 to 15 minute stretch session. So usually I work out those little knots and kinks, so I'm a little more limber to sit cross-legged or on my heels. But if I'm meditating for 20, 30 minutes, 5, 10 minutes in, I start to get a little uncomfortable. So I'll just switch position. I'll lay down on my back, or I'll move to sitting cross-legged, or I'll get the pillow, put it under my butt, or anything that I'm not good at meditating away the thoughts of my ankle fucking hurts, because my ankle fucking hurts.
Yeah.
So that's that I want to be as comfortable as possible.
Yeah.
When I'm meditating.
Yeah, that makes sense. Of course. You don't want to be in discomfort.
Right. Which
necessarily.
Some people are able to meditate through that, which it's a skill, and I'm not there yet.
Yeah. It's weird because yoga and meditation have so many correlations.
They do.
But they go hand in hand.
Another thing is, you don't have to meditate to do yoga, and you don't have to do yoga to meditate. When a lot of people think that they're synonymous with each other, which they're not. They're two different things that are very. It's like eating healthy and working out. Both are great. They're even better if you do them together. Does that mean that you have to do both? No.
Yeah. I think a lot of times now it's being described as mindfulness practice, which I think is kind of like a good way of thinking about it, because it's like you're just being mindful, you're just being in that present moment and just like being still and just being a human.
Which is
not
hard.
Trying to, yeah, it's very hard. Not trying to sedate yourself with social media or video games or Netflix or anything that, for me, it's podcasts recently. I listen to a lot of podcasts and I justify it because I'm like, oh, I'm being productive. I'm cleaning my room listening to this podcast, or like, oh, I'm driving my car listening to this podcast. But I've also sometimes found that if I'm like scrolling through Instagram, the way that I like get out of that is I'm like, I'll just turn in a podcast because at least I'm being entertained, but I can like do something else or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's very, it's hard to just sit down and do nothing sometimes.
Well, it's hard to look around and say like, this is the current situation. And then that's it. Just have that thought like this. I'm here now. It seems so cliche and oversimplified, but to just truly have the only thought of I'm here right now, and there's nothing else that my thought needs to be directed attention to. Now, if your kitchen's on fire, then yes, your thought of shouldn't be I'm here in my bedroom now, so that fire in my kitchen doesn't matter. But most thoughts that you're going to have aren't fires in your fucking kitchen. They're things that don't have any positive outcome, or especially when you're meditating, there's, you shouldn't be allocating thought to that at the moment.
Do you pay attention to the news?
I try not to.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of news satire, like Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, which, I love those shows because they put a comedic back tone to the news, obviously, but I also know they're very biased, but so is every news outlet you get your news from. So I don't pay a lot of attention to the news, and this is such a fucking Bernie way of looking at things, but it's just because, or you could call it selfish, but a lot of it doesn't affect me. At least, the big time political stuff, yeah, but a lot of the news that you see about like someone getting, you see all these cops getting killed and all these, protests and, certain things on the news that it just depresses you, man.
Yeah, of course.
There are some things definitely worth knowing. We're not designed to hear all
the bad news of the world.
Yeah, there are things that are worth knowing.
Of course.
But there's also a lot of, I say out of the news reports and stories, and maybe 10% of those are things that every person should know.
Maybe.
Like, obviously 9/11 happens, that's big news.
Yeah.
Most quote unquote big news isn't big news.
Literally, like my dad has the CNN app on his phone, like every day there's like a notification. Breaking news, blah, blah, blah. It's like,
breaking news, man. Yeah, like new world record for
breaking news,
swordfish.
Matt Lauer fired from the Today Show. Okay, like,
yeah.
Great.
I did see that this morning.
Yeah, kind of funny.
Yeah.
No, but the crazy thing is like, I try as much as possible not to watch the news because,
well, if you work out at Lifetime, it's fucking impossible because they put every news outlet on every TV that surrounds you.
Yeah.
So annoying.
I've been listening to podcasts when I work out recently because I get distracted where in between sets, I always want to look at social media.
Yeah.
So like now I just throw in a podcast and like, it's like, it doesn't get you in the zone as much, but it helps me stay focused.
Yeah.
And like in between sets, I'm not bored.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to absorb something. But
I like audiobooks. I do audiobooks when I'm working out a lot. Well, mostly for my cardio workouts.
I need to do more audiobooks. Do you have Audible? Is that what you use? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use
you
Audible.
pay for the subscription or what's the...
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
That's my thing is I'm like, eh.
Yeah,
I don't know. But I try not to pirate anything anymore. I don't think in my current state of stuff I'm not really pirating anything. I feel like, it's kind of like
as a content creator now, you gotta
yeah, it's true. Like, I'm giving this out for free, my podcast. So, it's like, but eventually, somehow I'm going to be making money. So I think like there's kind of that ad karma. Like if you skip the ads on some stuff, it's kind of like, well, are people going to skip the ads on your thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm trying to, all my software and stuff is legal, all that.
Yeah.
Which is good, of course. Trying to think if there's anything like pirated that I'm using, but I can't really think of anything. But where was I going with that? We were talking about like the news. I try to just like now I watch like Philip DeFranco. I don't know if you're familiar with him on YouTube.
No.
He's an awesome source because like every day he posts like a 10-15 minute video, just kind of gives like his top stories, gives a little take on it, and then like that's it.
Okay.
And so I feel like I'm like I can stay kind of like up to date with like some funny stuff, some cool stuff, like all that. And then I'm like, that's all I really need to know enough to have some sort of opinion. Because also as a podcaster, I kind of feel like I got to stay in the know a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, people are going to
have
bring
a lot
stuff
of
up.
people talking about these things to
Yeah,
you.
yeah. You know,
so.
you got to stay in the know a little bit. But like Tim Ferriss talks about this in the 4-Hour Work Week. He's like, you know, if you don't read the newspaper, like if you don't read the news, if you don't watch the news, the most important things are going to permeate your sphere.
Okay.
People are going to talk about those things.
Yeah.
And if it's that important, you're going to know about it.
Yeah.
If it's something crazy, you're going to hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just how it is. And
that's my kind of I don't have to watch the news to find out about the things that truly matter.
yeah.
Because I'm going to see the things that truly matter all over. Like it might take me another hour before I see about it, before it's been shared millions of times, or before I get a call or a text or see it on any of the potential outlets. But I'm not gonna sit there and watch, you know, these news stories after news story after news story about just a bunch of
depressing shit.
shit that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So.
It's very depressing. I was going to say though, to transition, because
Lola. Oh, whoa, whoa, woo!
it could have been bad.
Girl, you almost just fucked up all of his audio equipment.
Hey, it's okay. We saved it.
Lola, go to bed. Go to bed. Good girl.
I was going to say, as far as like breaking news, earlier today, breaking news, Bitcoin dropped by a ton.
Yeah, after it hiked up a ton.
After it hiked up a ton.
To
And
11,000.
yeah, which is crazy talk.
Yeah.
And, you know, earlier you're saying kind of like, you know, I don't really know anything. I kind of just invest in what my like really smart friends tell me to invest in, which is, you know, great advice, of course. But, you know, a lot of people out there are still very new to anything about cryptocurrency. Like even me, for example, I kind of treated it as like this, not fad, but just like a hype thing that I was like, you know, who knows if this will last, you know, yeah, pseudo tech. That's a good way of putting it, you know, kind of like a hype MLM type deal where it's like, you know, get in now while it's hot. And it's kind of like, well, shit, if I would have gotten in back then, I'd be rich now. But me and my brother were kind of talking about this earlier. It's kind of like, well, if it's at the point it is now, would I have pulled out or would I have just stayed in? Like once it reaches that
Or
high?
would you have pulled out when it reached $300?
Yeah, or
like
whatever.
if you invested when it was $1 and it hits 300, then yeah, you're probably gonna be like, these are some great profits. That's, you know, 300% ROI. Like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Or way more than 300% because that would be whatever.
Yeah. If you was at $1 and 300, it'd be 300%, right?
No, because 300% of $1 is 3.
Oh yeah, I'm retarded. 3,000%.
30. 3,000 would be.
30,000%.
I don't feel like mathing.
Yeah, me neither. I'm too
But
tired.
yeah, no, it's Bitcoin is taking off. But if you look at most trends and so what you were talking about earlier wasn't recorded. I do cryptocurrency investments. That's actually what paid for my skydiving. Was I put a couple $100 into Ethereum, and that Lola, I'm sorry guys, Lola, this is a really bad time to eat your food right there. So please don't do that. Just stay here and I'll pet you. Lola, sit. Sit, poodle. Good girl. So, yeah, Ethereum paid for my skydiving course, and now I'm hoping that Lisk pays off for my parachute.
What's the list?
Lisk, it's an altcoin, and it's a side chain. You know, you have the blockchain technology, which is, you know, Bitcoin, Ethereum. And then side chain is a way that Lisk is implementing, and it's pretty much like a platform, and the technology is written in JavaScript, which is already a widely accepted language that many programmers know. So it would be easy to implement and easy for programmers to start working with, you know, pretty quick. And also it doesn't bog down the main blockchain, which is, somewhat of a potential issue right now with Bitcoin and Ethereum. You have these side chains that that don't take out a lot of the power of the main blockchain. And for any crazy cryptocurrency or crypto or blockchain technology people listening, I'm reiterating what I believe to be true, because my coworker has made a lot of money doing this. And he sends me kind of his portfolio, things he's looking at, cool stories, and I'll read them. But his main passion is studying this. He writes articles for websites about this kind of stuff. He's made quite a killing. So I invest based off his recommendations. And of course, I look into it myself a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't look into the deep technology behind it because I know he has. And I don't plan on ever knowing as much as he does about tech, because that's been his whole life. And he's fucking phenomenal at it. And, he'll explain it to you, and he thinks he's talking in the lamest terms, which he's not. He's smarter than he thinks he is.
Of course.
So that's what I base my investments off of.
Some people are listening to this, they have no idea what, they know what Bitcoin is because it's kind of reached that zeitgeist level, I feel like, where everyone kind of knows.
One sec. Sorry, I'm going to move her food bowl just because she keeps pushing for it.
No worries.
Lola. Yeah, you can. 157. Edit that out.
It's all good. We'll leave it in.
Lola, come on.
We like Lola.
Lola, come on, girl. Let's eat in my bedroom or in my closet.
Lola's got to eat. But basically, for people that are listening that don't even, they know what Bitcoin is, but they don't really understand what like blockchain is, or like, even saying side chain or whatever, because I don't really understand what that is. Like, if you can explain it in somewhat layman's terms, like how does that work and why does it work?
It's
if you can.
Yeah, and maybe the most simplistic form, it's a way of decentralizing. So for like the currency aspect, which is the Bitcoin aspect, it's a way of decentralizing currency. It's a universal form of currency that can be seen universally known, and there's no middleman. There's no bank. And even like people don't know who invented Bitcoin. So there's no higher up. There's just Bitcoin. So
who, when you're paying like fees to like make a transaction, who are those fees going to?
As of right now, if you have like a Bitcoin wallet, then to my understanding, there aren't fees. But if you have like an exchange like Kraken, somewhere where you hold your Bitcoin, then yeah, there's going to be a small fee for that. Kind of like where you in a bank where you hold your currency, but you don't have the same aspect that a bank has with all, there's a lot more to banks than just they hold your money. And everyone knows, there's a lot of, whether it's interest and the shady shit that they do. Bitcoin is a way of, and to verify transactions, it has to be verified amongst, and see, this is where it gets a little even confusing for me, is that like it has to get verified throughout other like blocks. So for example, there was like $30 million of Bitcoin stolen, or it was actually Ethereum. It was some crazy amount, but what's funny is that the accounts that were stolen, like in the blockchain, like, cause those are blocks and there's a chain of blocks. And so it's, blockchain, and they're unable to withdraw all of that stolen because those blocks have been red marked, and none of the exchanges and they won't let anyone cash out, but they've been marked as like, hey, these were stolen. You can't fucking touch it. So there's 30 million. That's just out, which it was in it. And now they're like, okay, these addresses can't be touched anymore. So there's a way of, and there's not a higher up source that says we choose for this not to happen. That's just the whole community coming together saying that these were the stolen ones. So it's just a really decentralized way. And then for like Ethereum, it's using that same blockchain technology, which is trust amongst other people and the validation of other people saying that your address is, has some validity behind it. And of course, these are like, thousands of transactions going on in seconds. So it's as everyone knows, it's fucking huge now. Ethereum is a platform for that. So we're looking at potentially a whole new internet. That Vitalik, I forgot his last name. He's the founder of Ethereum, is using that same technology that Bitcoin uses to build a platform. And you can build applications. So that also means that we're using blockchain for Bitcoin for currency, but why can't we use that for internet speeds and using the same way of it's not encryption, I don't think. It might be, I don't know, but it's just a different way of building applications on top of the blockchain technology, like the internet and a decentralized internet technically. So it's fascinating, and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. That was the most simple way I know how to put it, and I was still confusing myself.
Yeah.
So, but it's regardless, the tech of it is very promising, and so Bitcoin's going to crash. I think. I'm not going to say it is going to. Of course, it's speculative. But any time that something reaches a new high, especially a long, like coveted mark, from $100 to $1,000, that's huge. It's like, holy shit, we just hit 1,000. From 1,000 to 10,000, that's massive. 10,000 has been within reach for a while, but that's it's a whole new digit.
Even just earlier this month, it was at like, even earlier in November, it was at like 700.
No, not 700,000.
It was at 1,000. Or sorry, it was at 1,000.
No, like 7,000.
7,000. Yeah. That's what I meant. Sorry, I was thinking 700 to 1,000.
Yeah,
7,000.
Yeah,
and now it's at like 10,000, 11,000.
Yeah, but
just crazy.
People are going to react to that because a lot of people's targets are going to be 10,000 because they know that once 10,000 hits, it's going to correct. Now, if you're investing into it because you think that it's a technology that's potentially going to take over all of currency well, then you shouldn't worry about what's happening right now because that's all drama, that's all news, that's all the fact that it's hit a new level and people are going to start reacting based off I should take my profits now because it's about to drop. If you're thinking short term, then yeah, you're probably right. It's probably about to drop. But long term, it's probably going to continue on because the technology behind it is what you find value in, not what you think people perceive the value in it to be. So I'm invested into Lisk. They just had a meeting recently where the price got pumped up because people were like, oh, they're about to release what's called the SDK and show a proved version of this working, which they never announced that they were going to do. They said they were going to announce their plans for releasing the SDK or it was really just an update of what's going on
Just
there.
like when Tesla has like a big conference, like their stock goes up or whatever.
Yeah. So the people are, buying Lisk and the hype is going up and it went up to $11 and I was like, man, if I sold right now, like I'd have almost enough to pay off my parachute, which was like $4,000. And I was like that, that's coming off of a $400 or like $370 investment, which is fucking awesome. But it can go higher. I believe in the technology. And then I knew in this meeting that like they probably weren't going to release the SDK. If they did, then it probably would have shot up and fucking great. But the meeting finished. I watched it on YouTube and they didn't release it and it plummeted. It's back down to like $7.50 right now. But I don't care because the way that it originally reached like $9 or $10 was because the technology is strong and people believe in the technology. Oh, there's a meeting coming out. Oh, there's rumors that the SDK fucking price gets pumped up because people are excited and they want to get in while it's low now because if they do release it, it could shoot up. And then it doesn't happen. They're like, oh, fuck, sell. And they get rid of it and they freak out. Well, if that's how you're going to plan your investments, then so be it. But that's not, I'm investing long-term into the technology, which is promising. Regardless of whether or not the news and rumors are true, the technology behind it is promising, and that's what I'm investing into.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's like
a lot of people are buying Bitcoin now because they're hearing about it because it just reached $10,000, $11,000.
Yeah.
Well, if you're buying it because all you know about it is that it's going up, and that's all you have.
Sounds like a bubble.
Yeah. I luckily have his name is Praveen. I have a Praveen who does the super technical work behind it. Then I really trust him. And then I do a little bit of my own research. And then I go, okay, this is strong. This is really cool. There's another one that's he's been looking at called Grid. And it's a way of kind of stockpiling solar power and distributing it amongst everyone. And it's the same guy who founded Ethereum who's founding this, and this is a more, it's a kind of an out there, which is why it's
And it's some sort of like altcoin thing, like it's a currency thing, or like what is it?
No, it's not a currency thing. It's a way of just distributing excess solar panel power creation. So if you have excess, and that's really all I know about it because he just sent this.
And you invest in it as like an investment, or
I
like
haven't yet. It's,
I understand, but like that you're saying like he's looking into it. Like, how would people get involved? They're investing into that technology as like a stock kind of, or is it like a
kind of, but in order for a lot of these to work, it takes a large community base because since it's decentralized, the whole entire, the way it runs is off the people in the market and, the activity within, the liquidity behind everything that's happening. That's about all I know for when it comes to this kind of stuff because it's easy to use currency because, you give currency, you get something in return. I use Bitcoin to pay for something and I get something in return. Now, as for the solar technology and even like the whole Ethereum kind of stuff, it sounds a lot like investing into a stock. I'm not positive. I just look at it as into investing into the technology behind it, which, sounds very similar, but that's where we get into the part where I don't know much about it.
Yeah, I feel you.
All I know is that it's done good for me so far.
You used to invest in stocks though, right?
Just for fun here and there, yeah.
Just for fun?
Yeah, I invest in like AMD and Tesla and a bunch of other smaller ones on the Robinhood app. And that was just when I had some money to throw around and I thought it'd be fun to throw them in there. And
Did you have success with it?
Yeah, I ended up profitable. I lost my ass on AMD.
Wow.
But made money on Tesla and a lot of the other smaller ones that I had invested into. Didn't throw that much money in there. But it's fun to do. But I find that I just think investing into the cryptos is a little bit more fun because it's also a little bit more risky, which also make,
more
risk reward ratio, yeah. Which investing is I like gambling, which investing feels a lot like gambling. It is in a sense. Like, yeah, a lot of people can, like, there's definitely skill to investing. There's also a skill of being a poker player. That doesn't mean you're not gambling. So I think there's a little bit of excitement there, which is why I do it.
Yeah.
So which is why I still hold a Lisk, even though it would be smart for me to take that out and use that to start paying off my parachute. But like, no, I invest in this because I believe in what it could be. And I don't have to pay off this shit right now. I have time.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna trust in that investment, and if it goes to shit, that's fine because I really only put money in there I could afford to lose. So if you have money to play with, I think a lot of people will get more excitement out of investing it and have fun. Do your own research. Look into some company that you just heard of, or just anything, and choose to throw $10 to $50 in there instead of going out for a night, and you might get more happiness out of just checking that each day. Let me see how this is doing.
The level of happiness in the world has increased.
It has increased. you might find yourself, like, if it goes up, great. If it goes down, you're at least going to be interested and go, why is this maybe happening? And the next thing you know, you're researching stocks and investments, and it's kind of fun. It's a longer term investment on your own happiness as long with financial.
Yeah, exactly. That makes a lot of sense. And I agree that if you have money to play around with, some people don't, but if you've got, heck, if you got $1,000 that's laying around and just sitting in your bank account, like, you might as well try to make something happen. Obviously, don't just throw all $1,000 into like one thing.
Diversify, make it fun. If that means splitting it up into fucking $15, difference and just have a super diverse portfolio, like, mine's mostly in Lisk right now, but I have a little bit of Lumens and Ripple, and I still think I have a little bit of Ethereum, and it's fun to throw around because you have multiple things to check, and it's just fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if you're going to be emotionally attached and like, oh fuck, like, I can't believe it went down, well then that you shouldn't invest.
You shouldn't have been putting that money in the first place.
If Lisk shits the bed, which is where I have most of my investment right now, like, of course I'm going to be like, well, shit, what a bummer. And that's probably about all the attention I'll give to it. Which, it will be a bumper. It'll be a bummer, but...
It'll be a big bumper.
But can't change it. So accept it, move the fuck on. And that's where meditation Comes in handy.
There we go.
How's that loop around?
Wow.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Just
very nice loop around there.
Accepting situations as they happen, especially if you can't change them or if they've already happened. Another big thing is future events that haven't happened yet. Like if you know like you're about to get into an argument or something like that, and you start to play that out in your head, never goes how you planned it out. You might
plotting out like argument points and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like you can't. Like, I'm not sure if you ever did this, but I can only imagine like if I tried to start a podcast, I would probably in my head be like, I want to ask them this question. They're probably going to say this, and I'll try to come back with something like this, so then we can start talking about this instead. And if you did that, there's no way you'd even get past step fucking 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Like maybe you might get that first question out, but and there's been a few podcasts that I've listened to where they clearly like wrote down specific questions and it doesn't flow well. The person goes off on their tangent. They start talking about certain things.
And then you try to keep course correcting back to the thing and it's just like, just let them talk.
Yeah. And it's like, he had a good point there. Why didn't you ask more about that? Why didn't you? So.
My friend Katya, she's been on like 15 podcasts.
Is that the 6-figure, 7-figure?
Yeah. The one that I just released.
Yeah.
She's been on it's like really high up there. It's called Entrepreneur on Fire. It's like one of the top podcasts. She was like, this dude expected me to present him with the questions to ask me. I'm like, what? Like, he didn't even formulate his own, like, basically his model is like, my podcast is one of the top podcasts on iTunes. You're going to provide everything to me, and in exchange, you get to be on my podcast. So you're going to give me your questions that you want me to ask, so then you can't complain about the questions that I ask. You're going to make sure that... It's so fucking lame. I hate it. I tried to listen to it. I couldn't even listen to it. I don't even like the podcast, but I know it's one of the top ones because every time I pull up iTunes, I see it. But I was like, she was like, yeah, it's one of the worst podcasts I've ever done, even though it was like the biggest one I've done. It was like my least favorite. Yeah,
that sounds a lot like, I don't know, the reason you have podcasts and the reason you interview people is so you can ask them the questions that either they don't ask themselves or that you have, and so you know that other people have. Like, I don't know what most people wonder about me because that's a very biased opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know what people want to know. I know what I like to talk about, but I don't know what questions people want answered.
Yeah.
So
that's very true.
If I came to you with a list of questions, I would probably be pretty fucking boring.
Yeah. That's very true. That's very true. Yeah, it's hard to it's weird, man. The podcast world is weird where I don't come at any podcast with any sort of list of questions. I have a general idea of like, I definitely want to hit these 3 subjects, but anything else we talk about, cool.
Yeah.
You know, like, and even if we don't hit those subjects, sometimes I'm kind of like, let's do another one later or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how it goes. Like, I try to be as detached from like what is going to be said, because at the end of the day, if people want to listen, they want to listen, and they can turn it off whenever they want.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, hopefully we're making stuff that people are listening to, and obviously people are listening to this right now, which is crazy, because then you get into that whole psychological, like, I can say they're listening right now, but like, what if no one does listen to this? Are they really listening? But then the fact that they know that I'm saying that right now means they're listening. You know, it's like, it's kind of a weird thing to think about when you get down into that, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I try not to be too attached to that, because if people are listening to it right now, then they're still listening and they somewhat are caring and paying attention to what we have to say, and that's dope.
And if not, then sweet, I got to hang out with my friend and have a cool conversation.
Exactly.
that's the main reason I'm doing it for, is like,
exactly. I was thinking about that a little bit ago. I was like, dude, I forgot about the microphones for a little bit. We were just like going.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, like I knew certain things were going to come up. Like I knew skydiving was going to come up because that's my obsession now, and I knew that OCR racing was going to come up. But I was like, I didn't prep for it because I know that I do much better just naturally talking about it.
Exactly.
And like I said, if I could have an idea of what questions I thought were going to be asked and then pretend to formulate answers in my head, but it's not how I was going to say them.
Yeah, so. Exactly.
Yeah, man.
Well, dude, I feel like this is a good place to wrap things up. If you do you have anything to like shout out or promote or anything? Obviously, follow you on Instagram.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. It's stoked.ninja for now. Who knows? I don't know if I'm going to change that again. But as
I
for
like
right
that
now,
one.
yeah, that's it throws in my whole Ninja Warrior thing and the whole like be stoked on life thing. So that's, kind of one of my credos or mottos is to stay stoked.
Make America stoked again.
Make America stoked again. And then just a random shout out that I really want to do. I just finished up the book Into Thin Air. Read it. It's a Mount Everest expedition, so this has nothing to do with anything we talked about, but it was such a phenomenal book that I think everyone should read it. And besides
Who's it by?
It's by John Krakauer, the same guy who did Into the Wild.
Huh.
Yeah. And this
Into Thin Air?
Yeah, Into Thin Air. So Into the Wild he did you ever read that?
Is that the one? I can't remember. I don't think I've read it.
It's it's about the kid, Chris McCandles, who pretty much just decided to go a complete nomadic existence, and he wanted to live just completely off the land. So he ended up hitchhiking across America, going to Alaska and dying in Alaska in the wilderness, trying to survive off the land. So John Krakauer.
Spoiler alert! Jeez.
Oh, no, that's in the first chapter, man. That's in the first chapter, and then it gets broken down with the diary entries and interviews with people. Because
is it based on a true story?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And like the diary entries, it's a very true story. It's very in depth and it's fascinating. But it's good. It's a great Into the Wild is a great book. Into Thin Air is personal because he was part of the Everest expedition that the book is about. He's a journalist for Outside Magazine. And so the reason he wrote Into the Wild was because he wrote a small article about it. It received so much attention and he was so hooked on the story that he wanted to dig deeper. And so he wrote the whole book and did the interviews. Into Thin Air, he was sent out by Outside Magazine to do an Everest expedition to write about it. Cool. Ended up being the deadliest Everest expedition that ever happened. Then he was a part of it. And he's one of the...
As far as like other people dying?
Yeah, people in his own camp and people that were also on the mountain at the same time. Like as a climber myself, before I read that book, maybe one day I'll do Everest. Fuck no. I am never going to consider climbing Everest. It's fucking mind-blowing what these guys go through and what he went through. And it's one of the very few books that I was upset when it was over. And it was really hard to put down. And it's really given me like kind of a step back of like appreciative.
Did you have the physical book or were you listening to it?
Oh no, I have the physical book. It's...
Dude, I might need to borrow that.
Yeah, you are more than welcome to. It's by my bedside, so I'll grab that for you before we leave. But yeah, that, and then I'll re-promote Ways of the Peaceful Warrior. That book kind of kickstarted all this whole personal development stuff for me. And that's by Dan Millman. And
Ways of the Peaceful Warrior.
Yeah, Ways of the Peaceful Warrior. It's a phenomenal book to read. So, have you had any books that you've been reading recently?
I've been reading the 10X Rule, which it's kind of cliche, like Grant Cardone. Mm-hmm. Kind of one of those books where you kind of get the gist of it from the first couple chapters, and then the rest of the book is just kind of like he just kind of wanted to write a book about something he probably could have written like a really long blog post about. But The Slight Edge, same kind of deal.
Yeah, great book, phenomenal book, but it repeats the same thing over and over, which needs to because it gets ingrained into your head.
Exactly what I was going to say about the 10X Rule. It's like each chapter could literally be boiled down to like a paragraph. It's like everyone is like here's the basis of the 10X Rule. Everyone puts in mediocre effort. You've got to put in 10 times the effort that you think is necessary in order to achieve massive results. It's like the bottom line. It's like if you think you're doing like twice the amount, you're probably just doing like a normal amount. You need to be doing like 10 times the amount. What would it look like for you to do 10 times the amount of podcasts? What would it look like for you to do 10 times the amount of workouts? What would it look like for you to do, and then strive to do that?
Sounds like a way to be really hard on yourself.
Yeah, potentially. But like it's like if you want massive results, you got to take massive action, and that's basically the thing. It's like his philosophy is like anyone who's ever achieved anything like super great, anyone noteworthy, anyone that you've heard of, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, all these people, they've done like 10 times the work or more of like a normal successful person, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's basically the gist. But anyways, I've been reading that book. But other than that, I've kind of been slacking on books, to be honest. I've been listening to a lot of like podcasts.
Well, I know we're about to wrap it up, but I'm totally down to talk books because I've been reading quite a good bit, and you know, there's a few that I would highly recommend. So obviously, Into Thin Air first, Ways of the Peaceful Warrior. Ways of the Peaceful Warrior will be more for the personal development kind of people. Into Thin Air is more the captivating adventure story. Then, you know, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck is phenomenal.
So Into Thin Air is not fictional, though. It's true.
Oh, it's true, and his first basis, too. He was on the expedition, and he had to...
But it's a story. It's not like a self-help thing. Where
it's a story. It's a in-depth, which isn't my style, typically, with reading. I like something that I read, and I'm like, I'm going to get something out of this. Yeah. So when I started Into Thin Air, I was like, I see the reviews. Into the Wild was pretty good, but he's my favorite author now because of those two books.
Well, Tim Ferriss recommends, he says before, like in the morning, you should read like self-help and stuff like that. And then at night before bed, you should read like fiction or stuff like that.
That's what I do. During my day, I'm usually reading 2 books at once. And right now, I'm kind of split up in between. I'm rereading The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. That's a phenomenal book. And then Astrophysics for People in a Hurry by Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm still working on that because I stopped it for a while because I got so sucked into Thin Air. I just finished.
You got sucked into thin air?
I got sucked into thin air, dude. I just finished up The Celestine Prophecy, which is another phenomenal book. It's fiction, but it's ways of approaching life, and it's this like post, not modern. That doesn't make sense. It's pretty much about a way that people start to understand how like energy moves throughout the universe, and it's a very hippie-esque way of thinking, but it is cool because there's lots of reasonings behind it, and there's 9 insights and these insightful experiences that you can have. So Celestine Prophecy, phenomenal book. Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Slight Edge for the self-helpers, which can be boiled down to master the mundane and the little things that you think don't matter do, which... Something that I've taken from that is read 10 pages a day. That's one of my daily habits that I try to get done. And one of the small habits that I will not let myself not do is flossing. Because it's so easy, man. Like most people don't do it, and I didn't do it for so long, but for some reason that's my thing where it's like, if I'm not dedicated enough to floss, because if I miss out on reading 10 pages a day because I passed out before I was able to get it done, or if because I also have like play piano for 30 minutes to an hour and practice that's on my daily list. And sometimes I don't complete that. That's one thing, because if it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm like, shit, I need to get to bed, like I'm not going to get my piano time in. That's fine, but I can't justify not flossing my teeth. Because
it's such a little time.
It's such an easy thing to do. Like that's what the slide is. One of the quotes I really like out of that is, it's easy to do, but it's just as easy not to do. It's easy to wake up early. It is like, getting out of bed is still difficult in a sense, but in the big picture, waking up early is easy. So is keeping your place clean. So is making sure you get a small workout in every day. Like it's pretty easy to do, but it's just as easy not to do it.
Yep.
So that's something that the Slide Edge teaches you that I really like. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, man, I'll load you up with a few books before you leave here.
Dude, I'm down. I've been thinking about books more because I want to read more physical books. I listen to way too much stuff. I like having a book.
Yeah. I mean, I love Audible too, but that's for the car rides and so I'm gonna annoy you about getting Into Thin Air back because I want to reread it soon, so I'm gonna make sure you read it fast.
Okay, cool.
Deal.
I like that because so many people give me books and then like I won't read it, and then they're like, hey, do you still have that book? I'm like, oh yeah, crap.
Yeah.
So I'll read it.
All right, I'll question you about it too, man.
Ooh, pop quiz. I like it.
Deal.
Very nice. Any other recommendations or shout outs or anything you want to
I mean, obviously
put out there into the universe?
I just like to, if anyone ever wants to think about skydiving, let me know. If you're in the Georgia or Texas or area, check it. Obviously, I recommend Spaceland. Fucking love those people. If you ever want to come ninja, let me know. We'll go. You've been to the ninja gym.
Of course.
For anyone who wants to kind of get outside their comfort zone and try something new, whether it's going outdoor rock climbing or coming skydiving with me or the ninja gym or, skating or, just let me know. And I'd be happy to, whether you're a complete stranger or an old friend, I'd be happy to take you out. And so hit me up, and anyone who does already follow me or anyone who's made it this far in the podcast and listened to it, stoked that you were interested enough to get this far into it. And so thank you. And thanks for having me. You especially.
Of course, dude.
Yeah, I love what you're doing. So
of course.
Please keep it up because the ambition is very contagious.
Thanks, man. I really, really appreciate that. Because some days it is challenging to put out podcasts.
Well, you don't pretend like a lot of these other podcast dudes that you're perfect all the time.
Yeah.
You don't pretend like that. We all struggle with our own struggles. We pick our struggles, and instead of being blind to those, you say, hey man, I've been struggling with the social media. I'm on this too much. And it's refreshing because a lot of people are too hard on themselves when they listen to these self-help people or these podcasters because they seem like they're perfect all the time. It's that highlight reel kind of stuff. When in reality, you're super real about it.
I'm just a dude, man.
Just a dude, man, bro. Dude.
It's true though. I'm just trying to make it. I'm just trying to do stuff. And
keep like doing stuff because it's awesome.
Thanks, man. Well, this is one of the longest podcasts I've done in a while. This is a good one.
How? Jesus fucking Christ! It's 11.
Yeah, man, we killed it.
How long has that been?
It's been 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Which is pretty solid. It starts over recording. I still haven't stopped the recording.
I haven't started the recording off.
I never started it, but I think I'm going to stop it now. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
We'll see you later. Boom! There you have it, folks. Another awesome episode. I really love episodes that feel like we can just talk forever. Connor's just one of those dudes that I really vibe with on a different level. I feel like we're both really inspired by each other and keep pushing to better ourselves. And I think you need friends like that, Anyways, I want to thank Connor again for being on the show and hanging out with me. I think that podcast felt really natural. It really was just me and Connor hanging out. And that's how I really want the show to feel. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. His Instagram is freaking lit. He's posting tons of sick edits of his skydiving and ninja tricks and stuff. It's really, really dope content, so make sure you go follow him. His account on Instagram is stoked.ninja. Stoked, yo, dude, I'm stoked. .ninja. So go follow him there. If you made it this far, if you enjoyed this episode and you haven't, you should definitely go back and check out episode 13 that I did with Connor. That episode is called Real Life Ninja. And fun fact, it is the longest podcast that I have ever done, with episode 14 coming in second at just 1 minute shorter. I don't know how long this episode is yet, since I'm literally recording it right now, but it's definitely going to be up there. I personally love long podcasts, so if you made it here to the end, I'm assuming you do too, so go check it out. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, another episode recommendation I have is episode 47, called Progress Not Perfection, with my friend Richard Corbett. And Richard is a very interesting dude. He's a super talented artist. He's a bodybuilding and fitness fanatic. He's a college dropout. He's working through a massive injury that actually left him wheelchair bound. But because he's on this obsessive quest of becoming the best version of himself, he's breaking down his own physical barriers and mental barriers one day at a time. And just like Connor, Richard is a jack of all trades, and I couldn't have been more pleased with how this podcast turned out. I think anyone who's a fan of my show is going to love that episode. He's also made some crazy physical gains this year, so I posted a picture of him on my Instagram. But again, that was episode 47 with Richard Corbett. Go check it out. All right, coming up next is episode 62 with my good friend Darius Gilchrist. And I've been waiting to share this episode with you since day one. Literally, when I decided that I was going to be doing a podcast, Darius was one of the first people I told about it. He's a fellow world traveler, and he truly knows the meaning of the saying, live each day like it's your last, because at the age of 23, he was diagnosed with ALS and was given 2 to 5 years to live. Lou Gehrig's disease, it's typically a fatal disease. Most people die within 2 to 5 years. What kind of news is that? I mean, crazy, right? He's 23 years old. So instead of feeling sorry for himself and just letting the disease take over his body, he got his ass in gear and he decided that he needed to start tackling his bucket list. And since then, he's traveled all over the world. He's gone skydiving. He's gone to tons of music festivals. He's moved out to California to pursue his career and much more. And he's a dude who's overcome massive adversity. He's someone that I really look up to and strive to be more like every single day. Luckily, his ALS has stabilized a bit, which is pretty unprecedented. And here he is 5 years later, and he's still crushing life every single day. And this was a pretty emotional episode, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it. Darius got super vulnerable with me, and I can't thank him enough for sharing his story. That episode should be launching on Sunday, so stay tuned, you savages. But if you've made it this far in the podcast, I'm assuming you want to help support what I'm trying to do here. So the best thing you can do is, number one, share it with a friend, but also if you can take 2 seconds to go to iTunes and leave me a rating, it really goes a long way. If you're on a computer, you can go to iTunes. If you're on an iPhone, you just open up the Apple Podcast app and rate it 5 stars. Also, if you want to take an extra minute to leave a review, I read all of those, so that's a really good way to get my attention if you want to give me some feedback there. But again, it only takes a couple minutes, so I would really, really appreciate that. If you want to follow me, just go to my website, andrewdeitsch.com. That's Andrew, DEITSCH.com. You can find links to all my social media handles and accounts. But that is all I got. Thanks again for listening. I really do appreciate the fuck out of you guys. Seriously, y'all keep me going. And I can't wait to see what the future holds. Big things are happening, doors are opening, and it's all because you guys even care to listen. So thank you. All right, I'm going to shut up now, and I will talk to y'all on Sunday for episode 62. See you later, everybody. Why are you breathing in good smells? I want my apartment to smell like sweaty socks and dick.